All right, good evening, everyone. I'd like to welcome you all here tonight to the Poland Board of Zoning Appeals meeting. We're here on Thursday, June 1st. We have a few items of old business and we have one piece of new business tonight. We're going to start tonight, everyone. I want to make sure everyone received the meeting minutes from April 20, 2023, KZA 0323 in discussion. Make sure everyone has those minutes.
Yep.
Any changes or amendments to minutes?
Nope, they look good.
They look good.
Good to me.
We'll ask for a motion to approve minutes as written.
I'll make a motion to accept the minutes as presented.
And will you poll the board, ma'am, or should we do that as a board?
I don't do that usually.
Okay, no problem. So we'll just get a quick poll on the board. I'll poll the board.
You get a second
tonight.
on
Yeah, well, for approval of minutes, I don't think so. But we'll look for a second.
I'll second.
Sure. Bob Third, second. And we'll pull the board on that. Ricky Morrison?
Yes.
David Long?
Yes.
Robert Durick?
Yes.
John Grahovic?
Yes.
And myself, Michael Johnston, yes. Next, we're gonna move to, we do have two cases of old business, but I think what we're gonna do with everyone's approval, we're gonna move to the new business first. We have one case here, ZA 0423. I think we're gonna move through this case and then we'll go through the two items of old business, if that's okay with everyone.
Perfect.
So we're gonna move next to new business. This is case ZA 0423, submitted by Jason D. Pasquale. I apologize if I didn't pronounce that correctly. Submitted 05/02/23. This is regarding 7988 Meadowbrook Trail. What we're looking at here tonight, guys, is regarding section 4.14 in an R1 residential minimum yard setback, side yard total 20 feet, side yard setback not having less than 7 feet. Appellant is requesting to reduce minimum side yard setback to 6 feet instead of at least 13 feet to construct an attached garage to the right side of the home. The relief would be for 7 feet, but noting here also the left side of the home currently has a 9-foot setback. The combined total of minimum yard setback, if this relief is granted, would be in reality a 15-foot. So everyone understands that. We have an application to the Board of Zoning Appeals here dated 05/02/23. There's a letter here that I'm going to read into record to whom it may concern. Please consider this request and attach supporting documentation for a variance regarding a garage addition for 7988 Meadowbrook Trail. The proposed attached garage will be 20-foot 6-inch wide by 25-foot 6-inch long. The approximate height to peak of roof is 25 foot. I'm asking for relief to the right yard setback, signed Jason D. Pasquale. Included in the packet here, guys, is some property overview and some GIS scan information, zoning district map, as well as some drawings of the proposed garage, how it sits on the property, as well as a warranty deed for the property. Is there anyone here tonight representing this case? If you'd like to approach the board, please state your name and address for the record.
Jason D. Pasqua, 7988 Meadowbrook Trail.
Thank you, sir. Anything you'd like to add for the board here other than what is currently submitted?
No, I think it's self-explanatory. Just want to add in a attached garage onto the home with an office up top. Size, obviously asking for the variance due to the size of the garage. We want to fit two cars in there. So any smaller would prevent us from doing that.
Sure. Any questions or comments from the board for this gentleman?
Yeah, I saw the plans. Do you have any by chance, like any photographs of like what it would look like? Would you be having something like, if it looks something like this, like whether it's from a plan book or something, it's gonna blend in? I mean, the drawings are nice and pretty decent and read and draw.
I mean, I can give you a photo of our house. It's going to match our house.
Okay.
I mean, it's
That's
going to
all.
have the
Yeah,
brick in the
house.
front. It's going to have the skirting. It's going to have the siding on the sides. It's literally going to match the exact house. That's the plan. Yes, we're not looking to do this on, unfortunately, on the cheap.
And one other question: what, if any, opposition are you getting from neighbors?
None.
Okay.
Have you I guess, looked at where the garage sits, and I see how you have the little the breezeway in the garage there, and where you're at in relationship to your property line. What I don't know is where that falls with your neighbor's house, 7994. How much space does that leave, like, between your garage and his house? Do you have any
The
idea?
new garage,
Yeah.
it's about 6 feet, to the property line to where the garage would.
And then how
Yeah.
far away is he from the property line? Do you know off the top of your head? I'm just wondering what
I
that
don't
distance
know,
is.
I mean, I honestly don't know that.
Because with
answer.
your 6 feet, and it looks like he's pretty close on there too. I mean, I'm guessing he's maybe 6 to 10 feet.
I mean, I think, those were supposed to be built with a 13-foot setback, so
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, that would be something you'd have to pull. I never thought to pull that.
Yeah.
But, I mean, he's pretty far off the property line. I mean, he's at least 10 to 13 feet.
We're just looking at, like, if an emergency vehicle, an ambulance, or a fire truck or something, whatever, have to get between those two structures if there'd be enough room. It looks like it would be close.
I think there would be more than enough room. I mean, I don't have any concern about, I could definitely get my car around there
Yeah.
if I had to.
Any other questions or comments from this board?
I'm sorry, I might have missed, I know your question was how far was the neighbor off, but if we grant you the variance for the 7 foot, how far will your garage be, the actual structure of your garage to your neighbor's house?
I've never done it, but I'd say at least 20 to 25 feet
Okay.
to the house, because his garage is on the other side. So this is
Or
not
to his house, yeah.
Yeah, this is not his garage side.
Okay.
So at least 20 to 25 feet.
Yeah, come up here.
Sure.
Come up here. Here's you.
Yes.
So, just show me how you're gonna,
So
that's what I had.
do you have an actual drawing?
Yeah.
Was that one you had, we talked about that one?
No, an actual.
This one?
Oh, that one.
Not even that one.
Just talk about the bigger one,
The
this
bigger
one
one.
What
here.
the map?
Make sure you stick up a little bit, so you
Yeah.
can see something.
Yeah, the bigger one. I think the bigger one might show it better. Like here. So this one shows how it's gonna look.
Okay, that, but as far as the layout, as far as like the proximity to the adjacent house,
So if the adjacent house is here, obviously, this is going to be ending prior to the end of this even driveway here. From,
to that
to this side.
Okay.
So the property line is approximately like maybe 2 feet off the driveway or so. And I'm gonna be 3 feet in from the driveway, is where it's gonna end.
3 addition.
Yeah, so,
5 feet.
so I'm gonna be.
Be 5.
Yeah, so if this is the line here,
Right.
I'm gonna be approximately like right in this area. I mean, there would be more than enough room.
That's just pretty good. Thank you. Okay.
Any other questions or comments from the
Mr.
board?
DePasqua,
Yes, sir.
can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
We have a
Yeah, we
question.
both have
Yeah.
a mutual
Can you come on
question.
back
Yeah.
up? The dotted line right here, this is not your structure. What you're
No.
preparing, you're proposing is to build something on the pad here.
No,
Right?
so the way it would, right here, okay, approximately.
Okay.
This is a playroom on the second floor.
Okay.
This is a patio, covered patio.
Right.
So there would be an entrance from this playroom into this is the breeze. What this is representing is actually pavers that are there now.
Okay, okay.
Yeah, I saw that, like a
So
little
there'd be a
walkway.
little breezeway here. The garage would end approximately right here, in this
Okay,
area.
okay.
Before the end
So
of
right
this.
before the end of the concrete.
And how far back
Yeah,
out?
about a foot or
That we
two.
can get the
And then,
cars.
so you're saying a
So
foot or
then
two
it's gonna
off the
be-
concrete?
Yeah, it'll be
Okay.
set back about 2 feet off the current concrete.
Okay, so
And
you're-
it'll end approximately right in this area, almost lined up with this
With
covered.
the play, oh, that's the
So
patio.
this is where, so it's not any, it's not gonna be interference with him.
No.
So if he's far enough.
No, he's
Okay.
way over here.
Things on the other side.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
Guys, any further questions or comments for this gentleman?
Great.
Thank you, appreciate it. Anyone else here tonight that would like to speak in favor of this request?
My wife.
You may. Is there anyone here that in opposition or that is opposed to this request that would like to speak? Hearing none, we'll have some discussion with the board here.
May I ask just one more question, please?
For sure.
Dave and Janet Christoph, 7994, have you discussed the plans with them? I know they're not here tonight.
Yes.
We have not had a
Yes.
letter from them or anything, but what,
Dave's fine.
he's fine with it?
Yeah, I've discussed it with him several times. He said, great. Said, should look nice.
Okay.
The fact that
Just
he's-
want to make sure, I know sometimes folks can't make it to the meetings, and just
Yeah.
wanted to see if you had discussed it with them prior to the meeting.
Yes, I have, several
If
times.
they can't, sometimes they send.
Before we
something,
even had the
email.
drawings drawn and before we even considered it, I went to him first. Because I knew he would be the first person that would have a concern, if any, and he was like, great, so. like,
I
it's
just
gonna be
was
nice.
concerned because that's more or less their living side of their house rather than their garage side, so that's why.
Yeah, I mean, for him, to be honest, I don't want to put words in his mouth. What he says is going to create a little privacy for them because they like to go on their back patio. Having that structure there creates a little privacy for them.
It's a barrier.
Yeah.
Okay. That's the only thing I have. Thank you.
Thank
you.
Appreciate it.
Guys, questions, comments, thoughts?
I'm familiar with the property, and with the owners. They,
Not really.
I usually walk that area once a day, and the particular house that the DePasquas live in is it's immaculate. That entire part of the neighborhood is, and I'm familiar with the backyard area too, and I don't see any problem with it.
Anyone prepared to make a motion?
I just have one more question.
Sure.
Is there going to be any issue with the approximate height, peak of the roof to 25 feet?
I believe that is in compliance.
Okay, I just want to make sure before anybody makes a motion on that.
The follow-up, Rick, is the one, because Bob has forgotten more than I would remember. Sometimes you don't necessarily go to the height of peak, don't you go to the,
That's correct. It's a difference between the rake and the ridge part of the.
so even if he's a little bit over, he still would be
Yes.
within that, okay.
Correct.
I just wanted to
You
make
don't
sure.
always measure to the height, it's like,
Right.
Right, good.
The reason why I asked, because I just wanted to make sure if someone's prepared to make a motion, if they had to add that into the motion, so we're clear on that.
Seeking a motion on this case?
he's the motion maker.
Motion
Man,
has
no.
not.
He's our motion maker.
All right, let me write it up. Give me a couple minutes.
Certainly.
All right, because there's a lot to add in this, so I thought you were going to make the motion, so that's fine.
You're the motion maker.
That's fine. I have no problem doing it. I just wanted to, I don't want to always be the one, give you guys a chance.
I'll
So-
do it in a meeting or two.
That's fine.
Can I ask a question? Sure. Is there I usually ask this, I forgot. Is there gonna be an issue with drainage? Because at a previous meeting, there was an issue with water. Is there gonna be an issue with runoff?
We're going to tie into existing downspouts. So,
Okay.
you mean that?
Yeah.
Type runoff? Yeah.
So it's not gonna-
Tie into the existing downspouts.
It's not gonna affect the
All
AJ?
back through the rear of the property into the storm sewers.
Okay, in case ZA 0423, I'd like to make a motion to reduce the side yard setback to 6 feet as per the plan submitted.
Can you read that back for the board, just for verification?
Sure. Oops, I'm sorry. Make sure it's CA 042 feet. 3, I'd like to make a motion to reduce the side yard setback to 6 feet as per the plan submitted.
Correct. Thank you.
Okay, I will go ahead and pull the board on that.
Second.
Oh, yes, I'm sorry. Seeking a second?
Rick, I'll second it. Okay.
John Grahovic, second. So I'm going to go ahead and pull the board. Ricky Morrison,
Yes.
David Long,
Yes.
Bob Durk,
Yes.
John Grahovic,
Yes.
and I am yes as well. You guys are free to construct. Thank you. Please call Patty tomorrow, get your paperwork in order, and you can move forward accordingly. You're welcome to, I'm sorry?
Yeah,
If you wish, you can leave. You're welcome to stay.
I mean, this is stimulating.
Understand. Thank you guys for coming in.
appreciate it. Good luck.
Thanks. Have a good night, guys. Thank you.
Guys, thanks everyone for your patience. So we have two old business cases here. I'm going to take these in the order of oldest and newest. These are both continuations. First one is Mr. Dustin Bach, case ZA0721. Dustin here? If you'd like to come up and, or if you have someone representing to speak for the case, sure. Just kind of want to get an update as to where we're at today.
Good. Attorney John Shaneke, Morrow and Shaneke Company, here on behalf of Poland Touch-Free Car Wash. I think it is important to go back, since this has been ongoing now. You guys have addressed it now. This is the fourth meeting, I believe, that we've been talking about it. So let's go back to the beginning. Conditional issue or conditional permit has been issued. Construction begins in approximately 2012. The blowers which are at issue causing the noise and the complaint were installed around September 2020. First neighbor complaint, according to the board minutes, although I don't have any other verification of that, was about July 2021. Now, dampers were installed. Dampers are intended to reduce the sound, the barrier that is caused by the blowers which drive the cars. I'm assuming, based upon the minutes of the meetings, you guys individually or collectively have already visited the site and are probably pretty familiar with it at this point. So, at the January 27, 2022 meeting, you guys tabled it, recommended that you go and visit it, but recognize or encourage essentially to go visit the car wash. Issue came up again by the board in June 23rd of the 2022 meeting. Again, the issue was tabled, but there was a difference that was discussed in regards to the sound that had taken place, and that would have been taken place after the dampers, in fact, had been installed. There was no discernible decision made at that point in time, and I don't believe there were any other complaints made at that meeting in June of 2020, or June 23rd last year. September 29th meeting, there was a complaint, and an individual was here to discuss it with you. There were a number of alternatives and things that were discussed. You guys raised the possibility of having a sound and audiology exam done so that we could test it and make a determination of what was going on and what exactly the science would say in regards to what the noise levels were. There were talks in regards to extending the building to enclose the blowers within the building itself. So what we know since that September meeting last year, a lot has been done. What we do know is that the Poland Car Wash wants to continue to be a good neighbor. They have a significant investment. You guys approved the conditional permit to begin with. They've been pretty good stewards in regards to what they're doing, and they are taking this issue pretty seriously, if for no other reason than as evidenced by the fact that I'm standing here before you today. It's important enough for them to ensure that someone is here representing them, to ensure you guys have accurate, complete information in regards to what we're looking at. So, you guys had suggested at that last September meeting that we take a little bit more scientific review. And what we did is we retained a separate audiology expert who conducted a series of exams at the site. And in fact, a report was prepared, and I'd like to share that report with each of you. There's a copy for each of you.
Thank you.
We can keep these, Lisa.
You may keep these, you may do with them as you choose.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Yep. Anybody else get a copy? report was prepared by Kosick Consulting LLC. Corey Kosick is in fact here today and can answer specific questions, but I'd like to go through and give you a recap of what the report is and exactly what it resembles. First of all, the date of the sampling was May 12th this year. This is not an aged report, it is a recent report, it's within 1 month, 3 weeks in fact. You can read through the introduction, you can read through the executive summary, but there's a few things I'd like to point out in regards to the executive summary. First of all, there are 16 noise samples taken. These are all instantaneous samples. That means you have a meter that measures the sound at that second, at that moment. It is not over time. So all of the sampling was conducted when both blowers were blowing at maximum capacity. There's 2 exceptions to that, and I'll point those out specifically. If you turn to the second from the last page and the third from the last page, on that color schematic, you can see a series of numbers which are identified, 1 through 16. Those are the specific locations in which the sampling was in fact taken. In samples 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12, they were measured at 60-foot increments from the source of a straight line. So from the blowers, 60 feet, 60 feet, 60 feet, 60 feet away from the blowers in direction from, in the southeasterly direction from the source of the noise, the blowers. So that would have been anywhere from 60 feet all the way to 420 feet away. Sample 12 was taken at the northeast residential fence pillar, exactly at the property line of the individual's property that I believe was the individual that expressed concern. And then sample number 13 was located at the northwest residential fence pillar. And all of these samples were taken while the blowers were running at full capacity. If you flip to the last page, this will show you the results. And for the purposes of right now, I'd like you to focus on the first 2 columns to the left. The location, and then the instantaneous noise level in decibels. Those were the levels that were detected by each of the sampling that was conducted by Corey Kosick on May 13th this year. That's what the readings were. Continuing on from the executive summary, we also took a sample, which is sample number 14. Sample number 14 is immediately right next to the blower unit, or within 60 feet of it, I guess I should say. And it was taken when the blower was not in operation, so it was silent at that point in time. The results show for sample numbers 14 that the decibel number, and again shown on table 5, the table of results, last page, sample number 14 shows the decibel number of 50.2. And again, that's with no blowers, no operation whatsoever, that's just standing still.
Can I ask you a question, sir?
Yes, sir.
Or do you have, I don't
Nope,
want to interrupt you.
anytime you can interrupt me, anytime.
Maybe, did you have? Yes, sir. Is that 50.2, is that just saying this, the extraneous noise around coming from?
Yes, sir, ambient noise from all
Okay.
sources. Traffic, potential for traffic, just convection currents in the leaves, birds chirping, all sources of ambient noise, excluding any sound that would be produced by the car wash, because once again, that sample was taken dead, no people in the lot, nothing else coming from the car wash.
No, second-
So- No, go ahead, go
For
ahead.
for an idiot like me, what, can you, like, what's the 74.5 in the first and second location? Give me a comparison, would that be someone blowing a horn? I mean, give me like some examples of what that compares, oh.
All right, I'm gonna get to that, but
Okay,
if you
then
wanna
I-
jump to there,
Oh,
that's fine.
I'm sorry, go ahead, I'm sorry, go ahead, sir.
Do you want us to address it right now, or?
A quick reference point, just to give you an idea, at 70, they're calling that a car, at 80, a truck, driving down the road.
Because I was probably an 80 when I was screaming at my wife watching Fox. So I mean, I was probably an 80, that's what I'm trying to think.
Yes, sir,
comparison.
if I could approach, I could give you a good reference point if you'd like, as to just what, just a voice level will present as.
Okay. Like you and I talking, what would that be?
Distance it's distance dependent.
Right.
So, as an example for you to see, that's nobody talking. We're reading around the 52 decimal,
So that's
50
like
to
it.
52, that's the blowers, so if I'm talking at a consistent noise, hello, we're hitting 80 decibels with my voice like that.
At this distance.
At the various
Right.
distances.
Now, obviously, the farther away.
Now, if I put.
So
the-
you have a benchmark, okay, because of the ambient noise.
Yes, sir.
I would consider it silence, okay, which would be a benchmark. You would go from there in your increments of 60 feet. The question I have with number 6, what caused that to go from a 72 with number 5 to an 83, and then in number 7 down to a 74? And the way it looks, that's probably the closest one to the car wash.
Right.
And it's louder than the number 1 was.
Well, it's the other side of, you know,
It's
wind
the-
could affect it, I mean, there's all
See,
kinds of.
I was thinking maybe even trees, okay, and it bouncing off the trunks and the leaves and everything, and you would get an echo effect.
An echo, well, depending on how the results present themselves. Barriers are offer significant change in the perceived noise level that's received. If I'm talking from down
Right.
here, my voice is dramatically different to you than a straight line.
And see, I
So,
also
yes,
noticed,
that does answer.
I also noticed too, that when you're by the vacuums, okay, that's all kind of like what I call marshland. So that water there would absorb some of that sound from the frequencies you have, all right? And that would reduce your noise level as well. I think the issue that the complainants have is when they're outside or trying to sleep and, you know, it's 11 o'clock at night and they're trying to have a party and talking, or they're trying to take their bedtime, you know, the fans come on and it's like, geez, man, do I have to listen to this constantly? And I was there yesterday myself. I must be losing my hearing because it wasn't that bad yesterday when I drove through. And as I was vacuuming my car, other cars were going through too. And I didn't notice a discernible, really loud jet engine sound like it used to be before. Okay? So he may have done something differently, that I don't know. But I don't know anybody.
Well, sound travels too, so
Yeah.
for you being right there compared to these folks being in their backyard, it's gonna be, they're gonna be able to hear more of like a whistling noise compared to you being right next to it.
It becomes relatively subjective, sir, although I do understand what you're presenting as, take for example, traffic noise, right, from off an interstate. Just the wind direction can dramatically change the reading as well as the perceived sound level. That consistent nature is something that you can detect from further distances. But environmental conditions and even the conditions of the foliage around on the trees could dramatically affect the perception of how much noise is being produced.
And I could also
That's
understand.
why we intended to do a worst case scenario.
Right, I can also understand you like a Doppler effect, you know, as the traffic goes towards and then away from. There's all kind of different variables that occur.
The echo.
We're both musicians, okay, so we're very familiar with loudness and noise and white noise and pink noise, okay? So this is really great because this really scientifically explains to the board exactly what Dustin is interested in, and he's trying to be a good neighbor, as you had said.
Is there, going back, because I'm still having a hard time, is there a, like, what's the word, logarithmic effect, like if you're doing an 80?
That is exactly the
Well,
word.
we're gonna get to
Yeah.
that one too.
So like if you keep talking at that same, say, Bob, you're gonna keep talking the same thing to me. If you keep talking and I'm holding your phone at an 80, you keep going further, like, is there a certain amount of distance that keeps dropping a certain percentage? Does that help you?
This is, his question is in relevant, in reference to distance versus drive.
Right.
And no, not that I'm aware of in regards to distance. However, it is very important that everyone understand what a decibel is and how we can understand this scaling, because it isn't on a logarithmic scale. So a 0 or complete silence, if you had a reading of 10 decibels, that's 10 times the intensity, 10 times more powerful amount of sound.
It's like an earthquake. If a 4 to a 5 is not just 10%. An
There you
earthquake is
perfect.
A 4 to 5 is
Perfect
double. I mean,
analogy.
that's okay.
Yes,
So,
sir.
okay, I understand.
Yeah.
But in regards to your question, I am not familiar with the distance via a reduction, standard reduction over distance, because simple things like environmental conditions, i.e. humidity in the air, will dramatically affect that at a given distance, how much or
As well
how
as
little.
frequency as well.
Frequency, very good. So, your bassy tones, that's why you hear bass tones, because they're able
More
to,
so.
those long waves are able to travel through different media such as air, water, etc., much more effectively than your short
Well,
sound
in a
waves.
perfect scenario, as you go away every 10 feet, there should be a slope drop with your volume as you get further away from it, depending on what frequency that you're at.
Yes, sir, assuming all other variables are kept at an
Right.
absolute
And I- and I-
constant,
that's why I
which is
said
near
perfect scenario.
impossible to emulate.
Right.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I took you off that.
No, that's it.
I'm sorry.
It's
Well-
all the same information, and if it's presented to you guys in the way that you can best understand it, it's best for everyone in the room.
Well, the more information we have, the better decisions we can make.
And I agree completely with that. And that's why we went to the time, the expense of having Corey come in to prepare this scientifically with the background data, with appropriate calibrated machines to take the samples and provide you with some information and to provide us with information, because back to what I said at the beginning, we want to be a good neighbor too. These are our customers. The last thing we want to do is irritate all of our customers. That's not going to help this business at all. But at the same point, we don't want to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars to rectify a problem that really isn't a problem. So that's why it's important to go through this process, and giving you the information in furtherance of that, I think, is very helpful.
Well, depending upon the individual, it's a subjective.
And there's always a level of subjectivity.
Right. You're gonna get people that have no issues with it, you're gonna have some that really don't care either way, and then you're gonna have some that are gonna say, this is just too much for me to have to handle. I get that, because
I
you
don't
get the
disagree.
cornucopia of everybody.
We appreciate that, and I agree.
This is very thorough.
Continuing on the executive summary, continuing, but I do want to mention one thing. You had identified the distinction between samples 1 and 6, and why there was such a significant deviation in the results. And sample 1, again, was taken 120 feet to the immediate west of the blower location. Sample number 6, which is a higher reading and the highest reading of any of them, was taken immediately behind the blowers. So that would certainly
Okay.
help you to understand how distance impacts
There's a
sound and
ratio
the
to
decibel
that.
right,
Well,
the
you're off.
deviation.
Yeah, to your point.
Yeah, right. And these were all taken on the same date, I take it, right?
Yes, sir.
512.
5/12, okay.
So samples 15 and 16 were taken all the way over onto Ridgely Road. This would be in front of what I believe to be the property owner that expressed some concern with the noise level.
The nearest residence to the source.
Right, the nearest residence, correct. And 15 and 16, sample 16 was taken when the car wash was not in operation, and 15 was taken while the operation was at full capacity. So you can see the distinction with 15 and 16. Even 15, full operation, you still have a decibel reading of 54.6. With nothing running from the car wash, you still have a decibel reading of 47.8. Now, it is important to recognize that it did appear that since the original complaint came in, and I'm not sure of this time frame, maybe you guys will be more familiar with this, there was some foliage to the east of the property that was removed.
Or some logging and trees removed.
That certainly could have an impact as well, but of course, that's off our property and shouldn't really be a significant issue. Now, finally, I'm gonna direct your attention back to the table of results. I asked you at first to pay attention to the first two columns, the location of the sampling and then the level that Corey was able to detect. Then I provided 3 additional columns. Corey presented an OSHA column for an action level, an ocean column for a PEL,
PEL, permissible exposure limit.
and then a third column for the EPA, which is a little bit different standard, and we'll explain why that one is different. It is important to note, there is no specific standard that is published by any governmental agency that we are aware of that would say whether or not this is bad, this is good, this is whatever. There is that level of subjectivity, and we recognize and understand that. However, in the OSHA standard, which is predominantly believed to be the correct standard for occupational safety, their levels are taken on a time-weighted average over 8 hours. So what you would do is you would take a different type of meter, but one that reads constant for 8 hours. And if that decibel reader over an 8-hour average would exceed 85, then you have to take some action as an employer, whatever the case may be. I point out none of the readings that were undertaken were above 85. Let's go over to the OSHA PEL reading. This is again an 8-hour reading on a total weighted average. It's the average of the sound taking place over an 8-hour period. So let's think about that. Is that applicable to our scenario? It could be, because if you take an 8-hour average of the car wash at any of these locations, you would have to assume, and I think it's very reasonable to assume, that the readings would come down. Because we took all the readings when the blowers were running. So if you're running, let's say, 5 car washes an hour, 10, pick your number. They're each running for 30 seconds. If you ran 10, that's 5 minutes over an hour. And then you have to wait that over 8 hours to come to the same standard. So it would be reasonable to infer that the standards that would be taken on a weighted average would be significantly lower than the standards that we're presenting to you today as instant standards, a moment in time. Then finally, I'm going to point you to the EPA standards. This is a 24-hour weighted average. And this is a little bit different. This is what they would consider to be something that it would register on their meters. Annoyance, interference. Does anybody have any questions, any further questions on Corey's report? Otherwise, I'm going to take you over to some of the other examples.
If I could just expand on that time-weighted average thing, the OSHA standards, the 85, the action level, what that means is at 85 decibels or above, an employer is required to then,
Protective measures.
yes, sir,
Correct.
the wearing of PPE, hearing protection, etc., that would then bring the actual exposure below that 85 decibels. 90 is
Over the weighted average.
8-hour time-weighted average. So one could infer from the data that we collected of the stagnant, when nothing was happening, minus truck traffic, ambient noise, and the actual measured, when both blowers, if you average those two, you could say that would be a daytime rough estimate average, right? But because it's a logarithmic scale, you can't just add the 2 and divide by 2, right, to get that average. We don't know what that number is. One could also assume that in the nighttime, because EPA, under that last column there, 24 hours, so now that's accounting for times much, much lower than even that stationary measurement that we took when nothing was running. because there was an individual mowing the grass on a yard on the other side, there was ambient noise of birds chirping, what have you, again, the convection currents through leaves. There's a lot of noise that occurs during the day naturally that wouldn't be there in the night, therefore it would also drop our 24-hour average, which is why that 55 is what it is.
I have a question for you on that date, May 12th. What was your start time and your end time for your experiment?
I believe we have a.
It's right in the.
Is it in?
It's right here.
First paragraph.
Oh, okay.
I may not have documented
I see.
the end time. It was a consistent study, and that would have to be a.
8:35 a.m.
To 11:45.
There it was. I did put it in there.
Yeah. Wind less than 5 miles per hour, air temperature 58 degrees. Remain constant throughout the duration of sampling. So, yes. The second handout that I provided to you is a comparison to help you understand where these numbers lie in relation to other things, the birds chirping, the lawnmower, whatever the case may be. The most relevant reading that I want you guys to remember today are the two readings that took place at the far southern corner, immediately next to the fence on the border, because that's the location where the disruption appears to be most prevalent. It's the furthest away, but it's closest to the location of which the gentleman who expressed concern, it's closest to their property. 62.5 and 63. If you turn to the second from the last page of the second handout I gave you, 62.5 or 62, 63 range, if you place it on that scale, you're somewhat between closer to fairly quiet to normal conversation. That's the standard that 62 to 63 decibel would reflect at that fence line today, as things exist today, or certainly on May 13th. So what does all this mean? Absent questions from you guys, which is important. We take this issue seriously. We want to be good neighbors. We want to continue to be good neighbors. We have a significant investment. We think we're providing a valuable service to the community. We don't want to hinder that service that we're providing to the community, nor the return that we're making from the operation of the car wash. However, we think that with the installation of the dampers, and now the testing which is there today, which we've now shown scientifically, where that lands, we believe the car wash is in complete compliance with all applicable standards and custom and usage. Therefore, there is no nuisance, there is no standard that is being violated, we're in compliance, and we think, and we hope, subject to any further review, that we've hopefully resolved this issue. Now, there are other alternatives, as we talked about earlier at the earlier meetings. Constructing a building extending over that, it's cost prohibitive. The cost estimates and why you don't see plans or anything of that nature, the initial cost estimates that came through in excess of $100,000. Why? Because there's a septic or a sewer easement that runs underneath part of that area that would need to be disturbed and relocated. That increased the cost exponentially. We're not going to just put up a pole building or something of that nature if we're going to do it. It's going to match the decorum of what's there currently. But the $100,000 is something that's very difficult to swallow when we're looking at scientific data that in all reality suggests that we're in total compliance. I have no doubt that the gentleman that has expressed reservation is not happy with it. But there's a balance that needs to take place. That balance needs to be the economic interests of the community as a whole, having a car wash and being serviced by the car wash, the economic interest of an individual that came in here and spent hundreds of thousands of dollars to acquire the property and put up the car wash, versus the nuisance interest that has been expressed by one individual. That's not an easy decision, and I recognize the difficulty you guys have in making that decision. We think we are in compliance. We do not think that there is a nuisance at hand, and we do not think additional remediation measures should be required, and we are in compliance. I will open up for you any additional questions that you have, and look for further guidance from you in regards to what you think we can do differently, and any suggestions you guys may have for us to handle this, any different manner.
Make one comment. Nice report, nice job, excellent argument. This all looks great. The only thing that in my mind is with these standards and OSHA standards and decibels and mix all that stuff up together. Still, if I'm laying in bed at 11 o'clock at night, my neighbor's dog starts barking, it's probably below the OSHA standard, but it still bugs me.
No doubt.
The subjective nature is inherent in what bugs one person as
No
opposed to
doubt.
another. One observation I had while doing the study is 224 itself. And just in watching that meter, the bump that you see when a triaxle goes down that highway.
I
Or a
acknowledge that.
Jake
Somebody hits a
brake
Jake brake right there.
And there's,
It's louder than the dryers.
It's louder than the drive.
Yes, sir.
We
I
did
acknowledge
not
that.
document that because
Yeah.
it didn't seem relevant for us.
I get it.
But you're absolutely correct, it's louder than the drive.
Yeah, I get it.
one of the things that I tried to discount from the study with intent was there was an individual mowing the grass with a zero-turn lawnmower at approximately 100 yards distance, and I didn't want that to affect the results of the study. But just so you can understand the difference, when the individual would go behind, what was it, Larry's, right next door? The building right
Yeah,
next door?
there you
Larry.
go.
When the mower went behind the building, there was no, you couldn't detect it. But when he came out, it would jump 10, 15 decibels. So an individual mowing their yard and a lawnmower's output of sound was dramatically higher than what just the blowers on and off.
But a lawnmower is once, twice a day, maybe, compared to how many cars go through your car wash a day?
It depends on.
An average.
On the season, I mean, we can wash a couple hundred cars in a day.
Okay, so that's,
Absolutely. And
So-
and that's
I'm gonna make my comments
the tough
next.
decision to make is, had we done this as a time-weighted average, although it would be more representative of 8 hours, 24 hours, whatever you decide to do your average of, your number would be dramatically lower than even what we presented.
but I'm not talking about the numbers, I'm talking about
Aggravation.
24 hours a day. A lawnmower doesn't run 24 hours a day. Listen, we understand there's noise on 224, there's noise over at the drive-thru. We understand that. That's not the problem here. The problem is the consistent noise that's bothering the residents behind the car wash. So I appreciate everything that you guys did. I appreciate your study. I appreciate, you guys coming here and representing Dustin, but it still isn't fixing the problem. We're not here because we want a decibel study. We're here because our residents are being disturbed continuously. And we've given Mr. Batch several opportunities to come up with several different solutions to this problem. And it's just every time he comes here, it's a different excuse to why nothing's being solved.
Well, the engineering controls, sir, I might add, where those baffles would be considered, at least by OSHA terms, the order of operations by which you would reduce a hazard is first you engineer out the hazard. Okay, if you can't engineer out the hazard completely, then you move on to administrative controls. That's warning signs, paperwork, training somebody how to do it differently. And last but not least is your PPE. Then you're forced to wear hearing protection. So to Mr. Bach's credit, the first step that was taken and was implemented was that investment into the engineering controls from the manufacturer.
Are you talking about the baffles that he put on?
Yes, sir, yeah.
And I believe,
that's, again, a physical barrier that reduces the noise level just by its existence.
but I believe the last meeting that we had, or I'm sorry, the meeting before that, we had residents come and said there was no difference from the time that he put the baffles on from before when the baffles weren't on. There was no difference.
I understand
So-
what you're saying, but unfortunately, from a scientific basis, that is a subjective argument, that there's no.
Well, I mean, they
it
live
would
there.
have to be
They're-
measured to determine it, right?
I mean, they're on their back porch, they hear it. This is, again, I appreciate your study and everything that you guys did, I really do, but it's not gonna help us with the problem.
Yeah, and it's kind of.
Our neighbor-
Something
okay,
What Ricky
sorry.
said is, you know, I'm not saying he was making excuses, but the one thing, and you probably know this, sir, as this board, as the zoning appeals board, we cannot grant a variance based on financial hardship or financial. And the one thing that the gentleman kept saying, well, it's gonna cost me this and cost me that. Well, we can't grant you something because of that. You know, and it was like 3 or 4 different times, I unfortunately didn't bring the paper, well, it's gonna cost me this and that, and he didn't put up a $100,000 building, but I have to do this and that, and I don't wanna hear that, you know, it's gonna be a financial hardship. Well, that's, you know.
There may be other proposed solutions that would be entertained. That's
I
not for me to
would
speak on.
ask you as a follow-up. At what level do you think the noise that's coming from the car
Well,
wash
before
would
they
be
put in
acceptable?
the new equipment, we didn't have this issue. So what was the level before when the old equipment was in place?
We don't
Because
know.
before you went and changed all your equipment, we had no issue. We granted you the conditional use permit, and that was in 2012. When did you open? In the fall of 2012? Or
May 2013.
13? And we had no issues until you updated all the equipment.
But keep in mind that when the drivers do run, the doors are open, so I mean, that noise was traveling whether it's in the bay or not.
But we had no complaints until you updated your equipment. So we're here again for the 5th time to figure out a solution to this problem that we're getting absolutely nowhere with. So when you were here last time, we talked about you coming and bringing a solution to us for this problem. And again, I appreciate your study, I appreciate all your hard work, but that, no disrespect intended, it means nothing. We still have residents that are being disturbed. Now summertime rolls around, we have no solution, so we're gonna go through another summer of this. We're getting nowhere with this.
You gotta
For the
keep-
5th time, we're here again
Well,
with
actually,
no
it's the 4th
solution.
time we're here, and not the 5th. It's the 4th time according to the notes in the meeting minutes.
I believe we were here in December as well.
It's not reflected in the meeting minutes.
Or was
I
that,
think that
was
might
that
have just been
September?
That was just a
It was just a
conversation.
conversation
Oh,
with
okay.
the board.
That wasn't an
So
official
within the
meeting.
board, we've had 5 conversations, we've had 4 public meetings, so I understand.
I recognize that.
But once again, we still,
And what are you gonna do when the building is constructed and then there's still a neighbor who's complaining?
no, what is he gonna do? Not what are we gonna do, what is he gonna do?
Then I would ask you, are you chasing out every business in Poland Township
Sir,
that has a single complaint from a adjoining landowner because of an issue that bothers just that landowner but no one else?
Sir, there's more than one landowner.
I don't know who they are.
And
I
this,
know of one individual.
this
that
has been
came
an
to the meeting.
ongoing issue for over a year now with no solution. So 2 years. So what I'm asking you, or Mr. BACH, I guess I should ask, what is your solution to this problem? Because this is the 4th meeting that we've had with 0 solutions.
Well, there's several proposed potential solutions.
Okay, well, can I hear him, please?
Of what, one that came to
Yeah,
mind was
I'd like-
a vegetated barrier.
The floor is yours, I'd love to hear him.
That's a potential. As I mentioned before, any barrier reduces sound dramatically. Yes, sir.
I just keep going back on my mind to thinking about all the trips you make out on the turnpike, the sound barriers that, sprout up in residential areas to eliminate the noise. I mean, there's other ways to skin a cat than a $100,000 solution on this. I mean, another way.
We entertained one time, I think early on, we talked about a fence, a solid brick fence or a wooden fence that would go up so many feet, maybe even be concave, okay, where the sound would go and then bounce back into the building.
Yeah.
Because the sound would hit the wall, it would go straight up, it wouldn't go over it. That would have been maybe a less.
And I thought we talked about the addition, that you were gonna put them on the inside.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, we had talked about that, but again, there's a sanitary, we have 2 sanitary easements there, which is preventing us from digging footer and, going in.
Well, can't,
Why can't we just revert back to what it was?
I'm sorry, can you please say your name?
I'm sorry, Eric.
Yeah, excuse me, sir,
Yeah,
we'll give
hold
you an
on,
opportunity to
1 second.
talk, and I apologize. We
Just
just
for
got
the record, I'm sorry, and you may have, but I didn't catch it. Could you please state your name and your address for the record?
My name's Corey Kosak, Kosak Consulting LLC.
And what was your address?
My personal home
Yes.
address, sir? I'd rather not divulge that.
Are you a resident of Poland?
No, sir, I'm not.
And
What's
you,
your
sir?
business address?
My home address.
Oh, your home address,
Yes,
okay.
And sir, I'm sorry, I didn't catch your name.
Marlon Shaney Company,
Okay. And are you a resident?
7081 West Boulevard, Boardman, Ohio.
So you're not a resident of Poland either?
I am not a resident of Poland Township.
Okay, thank you.
I don't know if that was a criteria for coming and testifying on behalf of an
No,
entity
sir, I
that
just-
is in fact a resident of Poland Township.
I just wanted to ask, that's all. Just making sure.
Mr. Monas has a couple comments here.
Yeah, I think we need to put this back into perspective there. Pull and touch-free car wash exists today because the Board of Zoning Appeals granted a conditional use permit. That was an informed decision based on the board, based on the criteria that was submitted at the time.
Thank you.
Pull and touch-free car wash took it upon themselves, without approval of the board, to modify their conditional use permit as a result of making noise. Decibels have nothing to do with this. I mean, I agree with Mr. Morrison, the study was fantastic, it was very comprehensive. But that has nothing to do with it. It has to deal with the modification of zoning in terms of a conditional use permit. This board could very well revoke that permit based on them violating that without approval of the board. They have the authority to do so. And over the past months here, the board's been trying to work with the principal owner there, trying to get some resolved issues there. And it's just as stated here, there were some options put out and everything. But whether there's one complaint or 100 complaints, personally, those complaints mean nothing. Decibels mean nothing. What's important here is the fact is that conditional use permit was modified without the approval of the board. Now, if those blowers were in place when the board approved it, so be it. Then we have to live with it. But it wasn't, and so it was a modification of that. So it's all within the control of the board here, and the board's decisions tonight, or whenever, is to determine whether they are going to allow this to continue as it is, or say this is not going to happen anymore, or provide some resolution in between. It's as simple as that. It's a violation of zoning. It has nothing to do with overexposure of decibels, the limit of decibels, whatever the case may be. It's currently a zoning issue.
Thank you, Mr. Monas. And with that being said, just for the record, I want to read a paragraph out of our zoning book here. It's section 4.04, conditional use permit. I'm going to read what a conditional use permit is according to our laws. A use designated as a conditionally used permit use shall be allowed in a zoning district or special zoning district when such conditionally permitted use, its location, extent, and method of development will not substantially alter the character of surrounding land uses or unduly interfere with the use of adjacent lots in a manner prescribed in the zoning district or special zoning district.
I recognize that. I recognize Mr. Monas's comments as well. The modification that was made was an upgrade to an existing unit. I don't think it would have been in violation of the variance, although the board certainly has deference to make that
Well,
determination.
apparently it arose that occasion there, because if those blowers existed externally when it was approved, that might have been, they would have taken into consideration. The fact of it is apparently that modification actually spilled out into the residential neighborhoods, into the people where it is actually creating some of a noise pollution to those individuals there. And
that's to Ricky's point earlier. This was never an issue until the equipment was modified. When it was modified, it got louder. When it got louder, the neighbors started to complain.
So taking your
And
concerns,
that's what brought this. So we would have never known there was a change if the neighbors didn't complain. And then we brought Dustin in, and Dustin said, "Well, yeah, I moved the blowers outside."
it's a zoning issue,
Right.
not a decibel issue.
Agreed.
at the last meeting, at the September 29th meeting, one of the suggestions from this board was to do an audiology report in conjunction with potentially building out and expanding that building. We explored building out and expanding that building and came to the conclusion it was quite cost prohibitive and then went to the second option that you presented to them, which was presenting an audiology report with with scientific data. We have now done that, we have presented it to you, so we didn't come to this board today with nothing. We came to this board with a presentation responsive to your request, with scientific information to allow everyone to make an informed decision and guide us in a solution which is to the satisfaction of everyone. So we're not being hostile, we're not being bad neighbors, we're here because we want to be good neighbors, not bad neighbors. Okay?
I understand
So-
that, but you also stated earlier that you were gonna prove that this really isn't a problem. This is a problem. If one of our residents or 20 of our residents complain, it's considered a problem.
I don't disagree with what you're saying as you're looking at it. I'm saying, in regards to customary sound and acoustical standards, it's not a problem.
I understand.
But it is a problem.
It is a problem.
Because someone's complaining. I got it.
And I don't care if it's
I got
one
it.
neighbor directly behind them or if it's 15 neighbors back there. They're still our residents and it's still a problem.
I understand that.
So are you prepared to present us with a solution? I know you said you had a few solutions.
Well, I was
Maybe-
hoping that you would be moved a little bit more than where we are in regards to the audiology report and the scientific data that's now been presented. Mr. Morrison, you don't seem to be too...
I'm not. I appreciate your hard work. I appreciate the studies. I appreciate everything that you guys have presented to us tonight. But it still does not negate the fact that we have residents who are being disturbed on a daily basis.
Well, I only know of one, so I have to stick with what I know and
I
what the
understand.
facts are based
Fair
on
enough.
the record.
One or 20, it's
So,
too many.
I do think you're, and I won't editorialize because it's not my job today, but I do think it's a bad precedent that you are opening the door for in regards to things of this nature for commercial vendors on 224, a commercial district, with deference to the zoning issue that Mr. Mona
As I say, sir,
identified.
we would appreciate the same, and we would ask you to do the same, is to respect the board's wishes in terms of approval of the conditional use permit as was submitted. It was your client.
Which is why we're here.
They modified it, right. Like, take the decibels out of it. It's just that they need to determine whether those blowers are gonna stay or they're gonna be modified. That's simple as that. Decibels, overexposure, all that, that's all great. Like I says, these guys are great doing what you did. I mean, you did what you did. That was a good job. These guys did that, but it goes a little beyond that.
It goes beyond that, but we can't forget the science, because the science is the fact. And I'm-
Well, absolutely, the science can support some of the issues they have there. If they were,
Correct.
if you were to take those same blowers and put them inside, would you tell me you'd have different readings?
I don't know that for a
Yes,
fact.
you would. You would.
I can assume they would be lower,
Exactly.
but I don't know that for a fact.
If that equipment was inside there, those decibel readings would be different.
So I would ask this board then, if we put up barrier trees or put up a fence, you suggest, sir, putting up a fence, and there's still one complaint, but the decibel reading now dropped 10 decibels, well below all of the applicable standards, are we still gonna be having this argument? Are we still gonna be looking at a potential issue?
I'm only
Where
one
is the-
member.
Where is the threshold that we have to achieve?
I'm only one member of this board. And my answer to your question is yes. Because, as Mr. Mona stated, this was a conditional use permit. Mr. Batch decided on his own to, well, I'm sorry, no disrespect intended, to alter the entire system, which with the first system we had no complaints. He alters the system, doesn't let anybody know, didn't let the board know, didn't let anyone in the zoning department know, redoes the whole car wash, and then we're getting complaints.
So again, I go back to my question to you. If we go through,
I'll try to answer your question as
Please.
best I can. I think the discussion that we had with bringing in an audiologist was kind of like, okay, someone that's versed in this type of thing, such as yourself, would be able to look at the frequency that this thing is emitting and find something that can mitigate that frequency. and how many decibels it would lower that frequency. For example, if the frequency is 500 hertz, you could say, well, if we put up some trees, it should take 500 hertz down by 30 decibels at 50 feet or something.
It's
If
a
you-
very variable, it's not a directly proportional effect that one could offer, that if you put up for example, my suggestion, and that's all that is a potential reduction. We're trying to reduce the noise
Right.
to what we call an acceptable level. What is that point? I believe that's what he's asking is, what is okay? Because we can't go into a goal of reduction without knowing what that acceptable reduction is, or the fruits of our labors are gonna go fall short regardless of what we
I
do.
think your baseline is
With no
the
sound.
characteristics of what the car wash, the sound emissions, before the equipment was modified.
Right.
That's your baseline.
What was the
But
decibels
we
when it
don't-
was on the
we don't
inside?
know.
You don't have that.
That's the problem.
You don't have that.
That's,
We don't know.
We don't know.
that's a moot point, because that's
our change.
putting the cart before the horse.
Yeah.
Okay, you know, and if you think of it with common sense, and I wasn't even on the board before all this happened, okay? You put this car wash together, your blowers on the inside, you don't hear nothing from nobody, okay? Then, because of the way the conditional permit was written, and nobody was made aware of the fact there was gonna be modification, now the blowers are on the outside. Let's say and I'm just gonna throw out numbers, let's say for 5 years, there wasn't a complaint whatsoever. Now, all of a sudden, without anybody's knowledge or given permission to do so, you put the blowers on the outside, now all of a sudden, not even within a couple weeks, we got all these neighbors in Ridge Avenue over here, they're all moaning and groaning, my God, I can't sleep, I can't have a party, I can't do this.
For 8 years, we had no complaints. From 2013 until 2021 is when you changed it, correct?
Fall 2020.
2020, we had 0 complaints.
When were the trees removed that are recently removed? That was a very strong
I
vegetative
don't
barrier
know, what, maybe
that was
a month or
removed
two?
by the neighboring property owner.
I don't even know.
That's all that clearing that they made over here.
You know, this is treating the symptoms, not the problem. It's like getting a splinter, and you let the splinter go, you don't take it out, you get an infection, you take antibiotic. Take the damn splinter out of your hand. Or as a dentist, you got a cavity, you put an ambulance in, fix the damn problem, get a root canal, get it pulled. You're treating the symptoms here. You gotta treat the problem, not the symptoms. The symptom, the problem is the sound. You gotta treat the problem that's causing it. So get a root canal and get a
And you
tooth
would
pulled.
not know
Put ambulance on it.
what the end result would be until you do put the plants in, put the fence in. Then you could say, okay, we've done this, we were a good neighbor, we're doing what we can to reduce the thing. But the bottom line is, no matter what you put up there to reduce that sound, we still got these neighbors over here. Are they gonna be satisfied? Are they gonna be satisfied because we put like arboretum up or something like that? Possibly. Putting up a concave fence? Possibly. But you don't know that until you actually do it. And I agree with what Bob's saying. You got a cavity, and they're gonna put that ambosol in there all the time, or take aspirin all the time. You're eventually gonna correct the problem, see if that remedies it. So I think that's what the board here, and I'm gonna speak for the entire board, but it just makes sense. Whatever is the least cost-effective way of reducing those sounds to make the neighbors behind the car wash be satisfied they've been recognized for their complaint that they brought to us, you won't know that until you actually do it.
And again, we can't have the complaint, oh, it's gonna cost me money, because that's again, like I said, the board.
So can you put up that additional building if you would move those sanitary lines?
I mean, yeah, hypothetically, sure, but we don't want to do that.
Have you looked into doing that?
I mean, no.
No.
Since that came up as an issue after our first rendering.
All right, so did you,
Again, the cost at that point in time becomes quite questionable.
I understand
In
that.
regards to that whole thing, you really sort of gotta scratch the back of your head.
Well, are you agreeable to the fact, you know, some of the suggestions that were just thrown out here now, as far as like putting up bigger trees or whatever you want to call, arboretum, or putting a fence up? I mean, I wouldn't see if that's going to cost you $100,000. Might cost you a few thousand. Okay, but
I've got quotes on that stuff.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
I'm just trying to look at the best effective way that all parties can be satisfied with the most simple solution.
But the only issue that I have, maybe this is coming just for me, and we do have other alternatives that may in fact be available out there. But I don't want to go down that path, only to continue with another step, or another step, or another step. And as Mr. Monos identified, putting the cat back in the bag and moving the blowers back inside, that's quite costly as well, because you have to redo all of the electric work. So I'm not saying that can't be done. I don't necessarily think that's the right remedy in this case, but that's why I'm trying to look, where is the threshold that we need to achieve?
Does the change that you made, put the blowers externally causing the noise, is that made your operations more
More efficient.
efficient?
Yeah, I'll give you an example. I don't mean to take the words out of his mouth. Before those blowers, you used to have a line 12 deep. So every resident that was waiting to get their car washed waited whatever period of time to get through the car wash. When those blowers went in, time was cut in at least half. So the residents benefited by virtue of that upgrade, which was an upgrade, not a change, an upgrade based upon the equipment standards for the manufacturer. by the manufacturer.
And so did Mr. Bach, he doubled his revenue.
But yeah, we're
No,
not answering.
because your customers don't change.
But you're not
Your
answering the
customers-
question. My question
You know,
is.
You're gonna fill up with gas at the gas station, you're gonna fill up with gas at the gas station, whether there's one per car line or three.
Got it.
You're still gonna fill up. You're still gonna get a car wash.
Counselor, my
You're just
question-
gonna wait one.
My
But
question
there
is,
was a
it's not the-
modification to the conditional zoning permit, which was granted by the board, and the board has the authority to revoke that conditional use permit based on the modification of it. Keep that in mind, I mean, and put that in perspective there, so I think we're all trying to work towards the same goal here, is just how we're gonna get there.
I want my question answered. You said it doesn't have as many people in the line. Now we're talking efficiency, we're talking more money. I want to know, were the cars effectively cleaned and dried with the internal system compared to the external blowers? Would my truck be equally clean both ways? If you said, hey, this has made this a hell of a lot more efficient, I can understand efficiency. But if you said, oh, because I can just move more people through, it comes back to that dollar thing, which I don't tolerate anybody, because I want to do this because it's going to save me money, make me more money. We don't grant it things based on money. So he made the comment, because there are not many people waiting. I don't care about how many people are waiting.
Well, I'm
I'm just trying to think of, I'm talking about the
Well,
noise.
what about the people that leave because they don't wanna wait in line? I mean, we've gone around, not just this location, other locations. We upgraded to a new system altogether, wash, dryer, all together. All the other locations we've moved outside as well and have had no issues.
I mean, same thing, I don't like 20 people waiting in my waiting room, waiting to come in and get their teeth cleaned, but I try to make it efficient, so people are gonna walk out.
We didn't double revenue at all. I mean,
Okay, well-
during COVID, our chemical costs went up 40%. I mean, last year, we've had our worst car wash year in probably 10 years.
All right, guys,
But again, it goes back, you're not servicing more customers, you're just doing the customers that are there faster, which are Poland residents. Now they're not waiting in line, where before they were waiting in line for a period of time, whatever that period of time is.
we're gonna try to keep this moving forward, but I do have one question, and this is regarding the readings 15 and 16.
Yes, sir?
So 15, if I'm to understand it, 15 and 16 were taken at the same location.
Yes.
Reading 15 is with the blowers running, 16 is without the blowers running.
That is
That's correct? So your question to me earlier, or your question to the board was, at what level do we stop? Okay?
Yes, sir.
I would say, if you can achieve this level
That's an unachievable
with the
level.
blowers running,
That-
then you've met the
That's
requirement.
460 feet away.
Well, if you're at 54.6 with the blowers running, and you're at 47.8 with them not running,
So you want us to achieve 40 or 54.6 right next door to the blowers?
no, I'm saying if you're at 47.8 with the blowers running at this location, this
Which
was
was
taken at the
420
neighbor's
feet
property.
away?
But that was taken at the neighbor's property.
No,
Right in
actually,
front
I
of
was
the
taking
neighbor's
all
house.
the way to the road,
On
in
the
front
road.
of, it's
Okay.
even further away.
Well,
So you're really looking at 12 and 13. 12 and 13 are the two that were taken at the back of the fence line.
well, either way, if you're at the front or the back, that's still the neighbor that was affected.
Yes, sir.
Right? So one of those numbers represents the blowers not running.
Yes, that is correct.
So if you can achieve that same number with the blowers running,
You're
theoretically,
asking
they
for zero input of noise,
so theoretically, they wouldn't be able to hear anything.
Like,
not as a result of the car wash, but That just the ambient level with nothing running is that 47 number you're looking at.
I understand that.
But
If
the-
we can't control the ambient level.
There could be a strong possibility if you put up a barrier that is not expensive. Again, as the suggestion was, the arborvitae or a concave fence made of brick or wood or plastic or whatever composite material. It, in theory, could reduce that to the levels that Mike's talking about. And then maybe we wouldn't hear any complaints from that particular neighbor. You may hear from others, I don't know. See, everything here is just so doggone subjective because there's too many variables. If it was just one aha, we could fix it. But you're talking about a whole bunch of ahas here, and we have no way of knowing. Spring, summer, fall, winter, all those sounds would be impacted because of the atmospheric conditions in the area. But I go along with what the board says, because I've been listening to all this. What Mr. Moniz has said was he was given the conditional permit. We were not advised or told or informed that he was gonna make a modification. This is what the board is concerned about, and I definitely do appreciate what you gentlemen, you and the counselor have brought forward to us. You know, I'm going back years ago. I'm a comprehensive science teacher with a comprehensive science degree. I took sound acoustics at YSU, so I understand that, and being a musician too as well. I can appreciate every step that you took for this, but it doesn't cure the problem, okay? Which is we have a constituency that has been here on several occasions to say, this thing bothers us.
And before the upgrades, we had no complaints.
Yeah,
None.
you know,
So
I
you
thought that
asked
loud and clear.
what's the solution? Or you asked
The
where we would
threshold,
be happy,
the
the
threshold.
threshold.
The threshold
My
is.
threshold would be that we have no neighbors complaining, no neighbors calling.
Right, so if you could bring
Like
the
we
level
had
down
for
to-
8 years.
If you could bring the level down to ambient level, then you couldn't hear it, so no one could complain.
And the only way you can do that is if you do something, whether it's a fence
Right.
or
You gotta block it.
greenery or whatever.
With your approval, I would recommend and request you table this issue for today, put it on the agenda for next month, and we'll lay out exactly the cost estimates and the proposal for us. My concern still remains, though, that whatever we do will not be good enough, and we'll be right back here.
You don't need to bring us a cost estimate, because cost is irrelevant to this board. But what we would like to see is an analysis that says, if we put up this type of barrier, it will reduce the decibel level in this frequency range by this much at this location. If we put up this type of barrier, it will reduce it at this frequency at this location.
And I think this gentleman would be able to ascertain that simply because
Well,
of the acoustics and the physics
Right.
of it.
That's what I'm
In
asking.
theory, mathematically, you could do that.
Yes, you could with very, very complex
You
calculations.
need to get an architect to work with, and you guys could probably put your heads together in an hour to
Just the
figure it out.
material of the barrier itself.
That's the key.
Will change.
Right, I
That's the
get
key.
that. As I mentioned, composite, wood,
Right.
brick, concrete, trees, depending on the density of the trees or the plants that you use.
I'll tell you, I'll relate my experience to this in a 5-second synopsis. I did a job one time with a huge chiller on a school, and this thing made a ton of noise, and of course the neighbors were upset. They found a way to construct a block wall around this chiller that had sound dampening properties in the block itself. They built a 6-foot block wall around it. You could hear the birds chirp. It was like it wasn't even running. It went from a jet airplane to nothing. So there's materials out there that can do this.
Out of curiosity, would a additional conditional permit be required to put a fence up?
Just a regular zoning permit for a fence.
Regular fence permit.
Unless it exceeds the height of 6 foot 8 inches, then it would be, this,
The board would have to make a decision on that.
And that's where you guys would have to see, if that sound is emitting at 9 feet, a 6-foot fence isn't gonna stop it.
My concern, if we were to say, do this study with the acoustical reduction potentials out there, is that we go and implement and then find out, oh wait, the real world doesn't always line up with what our calculations were. And then we still have, not an expense, but we still have a lot of fruitless effort and we're still at square one. And
But
believe
I think
council
if
is
you
also
could,
concerned
if you
with.
could get it certified by an engineer or an architect, and they could put documents together and certify the documents that it's gonna be reduced by a certain level, I think that would satisfy me at least. I can't.
Satisfy me
Even if
too.
it went all
Another
higher.
possible
Yeah, but
solution.
here's the problem. We're here for the fourth time talking about this again. You guys were supposed to come with solutions today. We were already supposed to have solutions before summer was in place. So now here we are, June, with no solutions. So the residents are gonna be sitting outside again all summer, going through this, and we all know how slow construction moves, so we're gonna be moving into the fall before anything even happens. So today, right now, I'm not prepared to table this. I want this solved. I wanna know what the solution's gonna be. You guys were supposed to come here with solutions. Now we're talking about what we're gonna do for solutions. This has just gone on entirely too long, and with no solutions. It just, again, like I said before, it just seems like every time we come here, it's just more runaround. It's just talk. This is the fourth time we've sat here and discussed this with zero
Again,
solutions.
where we started this presentation today was a response that was directly on point with what this board had suggested in regards to acoustic reports. And that's what we presented today. What
And I
was
appreciate that.
presented today was exactly what this board asked for.
But there's no way to
No,
remedy
but
that.
no,
I
we
remember.
asked for, we did ask for that. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, Michael asked for that.
What I specifically asked for, maybe this didn't come through in the meeting minutes, was the analysis that I just mentioned. Specific barrier products and how they would reduce the level at the frequency that the blowers emit, and how the distance and the decibels that would be reduced at that frequency based on a barrier. The analysis is great, fantastic job. We need to take it the next step further, run the same analysis in a hypothetical, like an E system, EASE, I'm sure you use an E system. You can mimic things in the E system. If I put up this kind of wall, what will it reduce? If I put up this kind of barrier, what will it reduce it? You can model these things in computers.
A friend of mine put a house up in Lake Milton that you see on 76, they dropped those big concrete things. He said, we were so sick and tired, we couldn't sit it. They bought this house and fixed it up. They said the sound was horrible from the trucks going by. They dropped that piece of concrete in there, and he said within like the next day, it was like same thing. He said like the birds were chirping. One
Yeah.
simple walk. And even if it's only a certain height.
We're not ODOT.
But I'm saying it's the principle, it's a principle thing.
So what,
Yeah.
what are the solutions that you guys are prepared to present to us?
Well, we're not prepared to present any specific solution to you right now, because now we have to examine what the threshold is based upon what we're hearing in regards to where we need to be. So, all the alternatives are putting up the arboretum trees, consider extending the building, consider moving the blowers right back into the building and reducing the efficiency, increasing the lines,
Putting up a
or
fence.
an alternative to change the blower settings so that they're only running at a certain time. And this is why I was sort of asking and probing in regards to the complaints. If it's one individual, I'd be more than happy to go and talk to that individual and find out exactly what he's complaining about. Is he complaining about it occurring at a certain time? Great. If he's concerned about it running at 10 o'clock at night, we'll put a timer on it. We'll put a timer so that the blower doesn't run at 10 o'clock at night to 6 o'clock in the morning. Fine. Problem
So
solved.
What are
Problem completely
what are
solved.
what are the timeframes for these solutions, for the trees, for the fence,
Well, that's what I
for the
told you.
building construction, if that's the route that we have to take?
We will go that direction. We will do the analysis as you're suggesting, which I think is a good suggestion as well. And we'll present them to you next month. I don't know how we can do it in any other direction.
But it was supposed to be here today.
Well,
This
I
is
don't
the-
have it for you today, Mr. Morrison.
This is the fourth
What would
time
you
though,
like
but
me to
he
do?
knew. He knew this, that's why we tabled it last time, so he given him
We
time.
came to this meeting today responsive to what this board asked us to present, acoustical information in regards to what the issue was. That is what we responded to. That is what we provided. We are in compliance.
So,
We're never gonna.
no, we're not. So moving on,
If I could just speak to the
Go ahead.
scientific side of things, one thing I would like to point out is even the use of the word solution, kind of elicits the response that there's an on-off switch that we can just beat at zero with it, and something that we do is going to make this all go away, all sound.
but there's been nothing done in 4 meetings, nothing. This is this meeting that we're having right now. was the same exact meeting we had in September, the same exact meeting we had in July, with 0 results. So we might as well not even have come here today, because you guys were supposed to present us with what the solutions were gonna be. And I appreciate your study, but we've gotten nowhere today.
As 105, I'm just thinking, my suggestion, and it's gonna cost you something, is the arborvitae or the wall, that's the ambisol. Put the things, put them back on the inside, pre-issue, put the blowers back, it's gonna cost you something one way or the other, put them on the inside, and yeah, you'll have maybe people lined up and stuff, but you won't have the problems as you had before. That's your root canal versus your ambisol, I mean, with my stupid example. Well,
No, that's a good
That's
analogy.
And when a complaint occurs after that, sir?
but there was never one, well, there could be, but there was never one previous.
Yeah, there weren't any
Never
when they
one.
were inside, again, for
Well,
8 years.
Hypothetically, if.
Well, then-
His question was if. So if a complaint still arises after we move everything back in, spend whatever the dollars are, going through the electrical upgrades that would be required again, what are we gonna do at that point?
It's like a unique business situation you have here.
You know, I'm not trying to.
With the equipment versus people that are in a residential neighborhood. And I'm very sympathetic to your client who wants to have a profitable business, and I'm very sympathetic to the people that have property within earshot of what has become to them a noise nuisance. And, you know.
It's not an easy issue.
Yeah,
I
like
got
Mr.
it.
Moda says, he's kind of operating out beyond what the scope of this,
Well,
this board approved in the first place.
There's a car wash right next to my dental office. I'm at 6205 Marks. There's a car wash there, and I have the storage place in Camel on 616. There's a car wash there, and my property manager are there all the time. We don't hear that issue. I'm at that office 60 hours a week. I don't ever hear anything because they don't have the external blowers like you have. That's why I don't know what the name of the place is next to mine.
I'm just thinking of your blowers.
Yeah.
And when I come to your place, I drip dry. I don't, I'm a cheapie. But your water is filtered or whatever, and there's never an issue, and it's all gone by the time I get home. Yeah, and I think about other car washes that I visited that are located where the final station is a discharge right out on the highway, where you have all the semis and everything else, you know, rushing back and forth. And if your entire operation was oriented toward 224, where the discharge point was facing out that way, we probably wouldn't be having this conversation, and you could put JT 79s out there to blow cars off, you know. So
Well,
we want to come up with something that's good for you and good for the people that
I
live
would
around.
request you table the issue for 1 month.
Well,
Give
what
us
we're
an
gonna do,
opportunity.
we're gonna move through the rest of the process on this case here, and we appreciate both of your gentlemen's input here, and Dustin, thank you. Everyone on the board, thank you. I'm gonna ask at this time if there's anyone else here that would like to speak
Thank
in
you all.
favor
Thank
of
you.
this
Thank you.
request. Asking if anyone's here to speak in favor of this case tonight. Hearing none, I'm gonna ask if anyone is here in opposition of this case tonight. If anyone would like to speak, sir, I know you've been very patient, thank you. If you would state your name and address for the record, please.
Eric Medved, 3308 Ridgely Park.
Thanks, sir.
So, I do appreciate you going through all that to get the decibel levels and things. I believe decibel levels in this study are used for workers who are around it constantly. We're outside, and I can just give some anecdotal information. I don't have any studies done or anything like that, but Memorial Day, we had some family over, and I would say that 40% of our conversation was about how loud the car wash was sitting there. We had to stop conversation, wait for the blowers to stop, and then we continue talking again. Now, the study was done at Debo's property at 3300. The original complaint was at 3304 Ridge Park, which is our neighbor Denise. She has since moved. I don't know why she moved. Possibly she moved because of the noise. Yeah. So Debo was here during the first meeting at 3300, so that's one complaint. The original call was done by Denise, who's at 3304. I was there at all of the meetings so far, except for one, at 3308, and then there's some other neighbors here today too. So we have more than just one complaint. And it's obviously in the springtime and the nicer weather is an 8 hour, 10 hour, 12 hour. You said the studies were based on 8 hour days? 24-hour days, well, how about 24-hour days for 3 years? You know, and it's, you would think that you would just get used to it after a while, you just don't. So, that's the biggest thing that I can tell you is, I guarantee you that the decibels are not anywhere near ambient level when I'm sitting on my back patio. Promise you that. So, that's my evidence.
Would it be to your satisfaction if the decibels could be brought down to ambient level with those blowers running?
I would like it to be to a level where it was before the blowers on the outside. I don't know what those levels are, I don't know what the decibel numbers are we're looking at. I just want it to be the way it was before.
You were there before, when they
Yes.
run this, so that, that's.
And
my
you notice a
suggestion.
discernible difference
Yes.
when they were
Yeah,
made?
oh, yes. Yeah, you didn't recognize it at all.
Certainly.
And I know that you mentioned the semi trucks with the big brake. Those don't occur very often. We definitely hear those. It's not nearly as often as that blower's running, so it's definitely a lot more than that.
Gentlemen, anything for
Any
this
questions?
gentleman here? Thanks for coming in.
Thank
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
That's helpful.
Is there anyone else here in opposition that would like to speak tonight?
I would just like to say,
If you wouldn't mind, sir, approach and state your name and address.
I'm Bob Mastrian, I'm an architect, and I live in 34 Botzer Street in Poland, and I just, I understand the dilemma here, but as an architect, I mean, why couldn't you go back to the original blowers and keep it inside? I used to frequent that car wash because it was the best in town, and then they changed to these other blowers, and they do not dry the car at all. In fact, because of that drying system, I don't go there anymore. And I don't know why manufacturer would require this as an upgrade when it really is a downgrade for the neighbors, for the people who use the facility and things like this. So I know why you hand dry it, because you have to anyway. And so that, I'm just saying, go back to the original, and that gets you with the neighbors happy again. And if they can come up with other solutions, then you've got everyone happy. Even if they can't come up with another solution, you're done. Okay? That's all I have to say.
Thank you, Bob.
Thank you.
Can I readdress the board? if
You
possible?
absolutely may.
Very short period of time. We bring this to a conclusion right now, based upon the comments from you and certainly you as well. We'll move the blowers back to where they were, interior. We'll do that immediately. As soon as we can get the contractors, et cetera, to be out there. It will return the car wash to the condition it was in before. And under those circumstances, and certainly hearing your comments, that would be satisfactory from your perspective, I think that will end the issue at this
I'm on
point.
board.
Sounds good.
I think
Sounds
that's
good.
fine with me.
Yeah.
The only thing that we would ask is just to notify our office when that relocation is complete, so we can have an opportunity to just go take a listen with a fresh ear, and that way, if anything else comes in,
We will do so.
Can we vote on that now, on the condition he does this?
I want to hear from the other residents, please.
Oh, is there anyone else here?
I do believe this.
Oh, I apologize.
Oh, sorry. I have a question real quick too, though. If they move the blowers back inside, are they using the same ones that you used previously, or have you used
that,
modern ones?
it'll be those ones still, which, yeah, again, those were part of the new equipment package.
Sir, I apologize, I
Oh,
missed
that's
you.
all right.
If you could state your name and address.
Yeah, David Baker, 3312 Ridgely Park. So I just wanted to echo kind of what Eric said. We live 4 houses down from the closest house to the car wash. So we've had conversation with all our neighbors, so it's not just one complaint. And again, like we said, it's nothing like, dangerous sounding to your ears, but it is an irritant, and you compare it to, a dog barking, and kind of is that, if you're trying to take a nap or like having conversation with family and friends outside, it does get quite irritating. So I just wanted to echo Eric's thoughts, and, I appreciate all your guys' work and the board for listening to all this.
We appreciate your comments.
Thank
Thank you.
So again, can we make,
So here's the question that I have. When you move the blowers outside, you change the blowers. Is that true?
They're not the same, yeah, the original equipment had the blowers that were, it was part of the unit itself.
Right.
So with this new equipment, this was like part of the new equipment package, so, I mean,
it's mounted on pedestals versus.
I understand, but what I'm driving at is you're gonna put different blowers back inside the same building, so it could theoretically be louder with the
No, you
different
put the same
blowers.
We're gonna put the original blowers back
original
into
ones.
the original.
I misunderstood you. So you're gonna put the original blowers back inside the building, returning it to the condition which we had first granted you the conditional occupancy.
Yeah, inside the building.
Conditional use. But the old blowers, not these blowers.
Well, I guess it's gonna be, they're different blowers, I guess.
Okay.
Well, I'm just saying they're newer because of the.
So
old-
you're gonna put the blowers that are outside right now, you're gonna put them in the building.
Tucked right inside the door.
So you're not gonna use the old blowers that were quieter. I think that's where Michael's going.
Right.
Well, they were part of an onboard drying system, which when we got rid of that equipment, they went with that.
So you're gonna,
But
again,
it's
just to
Still a
reiterate,
different blower.
the existing blowers are just gonna go inside.
Correct.
Okay, so go ahead, Michael,
So,
what was
so
your
you-
question?
you've still changed the conditional use. You were given conditional use on the old blowers, which are now gone.
Well, I guess I'm confused just because I guess I thought like every car wash in every area we were in, we have 9 locations now. We have a car wash is a conditional use regardless of what, municipality you're in. So, we've changed out equipment many times without having to get permits or anything. So I guess I'm confused if we have to get a permit or run it by the board and change our equipment.
Well, your conditional use permit was in place with the equipment that you presented to the board when you first came in 2012. So for changing the equipment, especially putting it outside, yeah, you should have got it, permission
But
from
I mean,
it.
I guess if say that equipment's wore out, and we had to buy this new equipment, which we did, I mean, I'm just saying.
Yeah,
it's
you
just
would-
manufacturer, so we have to run, I'm saying we have to run that by the board. And
Correct. Yes.
But that doesn't seem right, like, there's no freedom of choice basically as an owner.
But your conditional use permit was granted based on the original equipment.
But I
So
guess
if you were
I
gonna
didn't
alter,
present that equipment in the original meeting in 2012.
but if you're gonna alter the conditional use permit, then you should notify the zoning
But he's
department.
saying the original equipment wasn't part of that decision that you made back in 2012.
It was just being a car wash in general.
Right, it was never considered.
But Bob, if he upgrades or alters,
Like I didn't say we.
No, I think the board lacks authority over any equipment from the structure itself.
Yeah, I agree.
I think it's as long as because equipment changes, there's advancements to drying systems and all that, says, I think as long as it's housed within the structure there, what's gonna provide some noise barrier, I don't see that being an issue.
okay.
I would just maybe request that you do your due diligence and look at your original equipment and how many decibel those blower motors were, and then look at the equipment that you currently are going to put back in there and see how many decibel those motors are. And if they're close, or maybe the new ones are a little bit more, but as long as it's not egregious, if it's, 30 dB more, 50 dB more, that may not make a difference. If it's only 5 dB more, you're probably on the right
I mean,
track.
essentially, it just went from traveling with the equipment on the old style to just being stationary.
Standalone.
So you drive through it.
Got it.
And then, adding the elephant trunk things are just covers, more or less.
We want to resolve this to be amicable for everyone and the residents as well. As much as I think it pains everyone to continue this, I don't see that we have much of a
I
choice.
just have, before, not to drag this on, but how long are we looking time frame for you to put these blowers inside?
I mean, I'm gonna do as soon as possible. I gotta call them and get it scheduled. I mean, 'cause
Like,
they have
what,
to move it.
what would your estimate be?
I mean, I'm gonna try to do it within the next month here.
Do you, and I'm just asking the board a question. Do you think we should change this conditional use permit to designated hours, since we are in the middle of summer, we have 4th of July coming, to where he's using these blowers just during the day and maybe not on holidays? Considering that he is trying to change it to put the blowers back inside, but we don't know when that's gonna be. That could be in the fall or in winter.
Oh, do we have the authority?
I don't think we have
We
the
have the
authority
authority
to
to
do
do
that.
Next meeting, and if at the next meeting, the work has not yet been done, we probably would propose something of that to you as an
I mean, yeah, because I mean, you suggested it, and I was actually going to suggest it myself. I'm just looking for maybe a 7-day a week, say 7 in the morning until 5 at night. You know, most people get home from work after 5. You know, they're sitting out on their patio after work. Weekends, they're having people over. In the evenings, we have 4th of July coming up. And it's just a suggestion that I'm making to the board.
I think 5 o'clock is a little bit early in that context, if you would consider doing that. I mean, think about that. People are just getting home from work, they're still on the road, they're still traveling. It seems a little bit over the top from that perspective, but, you know, you guys get to make decisions.
I mean,
Well,
feedback
I mean, I
from the
think
board.
another way of looking at it is to modify your operation to, you know, you can continue to wash cars like all night, but you just, using the blower won't be an option for your customers. They have to go with the $8 or maybe the $10.
Because this is what I'm concerned with, that, you know, he's gonna make contact with the manufacturer to get them changed. Well, what if they can't come until fall, and we don't have another meeting until, you know, a month or 2 months away? So we're going all through summer with the same exact problem. At least we could help resolve the problem now, give the residents a little bit of a break in the summer months. The holidays coming up.
I would pose that question to the affected residents.
The affected residents, yeah.
Is that an amendable temporary solution to you folks?
Yeah, I'm okay with that.
So,
I mean, can I say?
Sure,
something?
absolutely,
I mean,
please.
What if, I mean, right now, we have a job in Salem, guys are installing, actually, this equipment right now, in one of our locations. If I can get them there, you know, within a month to get this started, the process started, I mean.
Well, I mean, based on what I'm hearing from the residents and your idea, maybe we could limit the time until those blowers are relocated. Then once they're relocated inside the building, then you can go back through 24/7 operation, and we'll see what happens, I guess.
Well, and then to that extent, I mean, like for us, we wanna do one solution and be done. We wanna drag it on to like.
We do too.
You know, leave it up to somebody else to have, you know, once we put it back, and I guess we just don't wanna have any more complaints than where we stand there. You know, we have to completely shut it off or.
Well, it sounds like, in hearing from the residents here, that that's a good first step, is to put the blowers back where they started, because no one really had any issues when they were in that position. So it seems pretty confident that that's the solution. I can't say that with certainty, but it sounds like that we would at least be back to where we were before, and there was no issues.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Question, so you're a specialist in sound, correct?
I've done numerous case studies that.
Okay. So when the blowers are outside and they're facing, you know, out towards the houses, they get moved to just directly inside that door, and they're facing each other. I'm assuming that's what they're gonna be doing. The outside part of the mower, they're gonna be facing each other. How much of an impact will that have on sound reflection and going towards the neighborhood?
If what you're suggesting is true, are you familiar with the orientation of the blowers? Will that change?
No,
The
they're
direction
gonna stay,
of,
the orientation will stay where they're at, it's just gonna be tucked inside. Which would be the doorway, you know, so there's, you know, 2-foot gaps pretty much, like covering, I guess, I guess.
That brick facade that wraps around, they're tucked in those corners.
2 foot's better than no foot.
yeah, what you're questioning is the orientation, the directional nature dramatically affects, yes.
Yeah.
Dramatically affects the, almost analogous to if you're, speaking through a megaphone or, you know, inside core of a paper towel tube. If I'm talking at you right here through the tube, you can hear me very clearly and loud. But if I turn this direction, so yes, that would, if the directional nature of the blowers changes, that would dramatically affect the output level. But I am unaware if the configuration of the blower itself will change by bringing it inside. We will have
Yeah,
a
I guess
sort of
my
barrier.
concern is when you move these inside, is it just moving it back 2 feet, or is it going to be actually covered by that brick wall, and that brick wall's gonna stop that, where the main is coming from?
I mean, the brick should cover like.
If I remember, when you did have them on the inside, okay, you had that 2 foot, 2.5 foot that pretty much covered most of that blower system. And you might have saw maybe not even an inch sticking out beyond that. So, yeah, I think that would be a good solution to that, I really do.
When it was before, it was actually part of the system that would go over your car. It
Yeah.
wasn't stationary.
And that was actually mounted lower, those were 7'6" or 7'8", like the actual where, the air would come out. So, but what helps too, is those are 10 by 10 openings, so the door hangs down like 2 foot, so that, that kind of.
So then,
keeps that in.
what you have now, you have nothing to stop the sound. Here, you got something to stop the
So
sound.
it's almost like, Corey, that's almost like you dropping down below the counter.
Yeah, below the counter here, yeah.
6 p.m.
Okay.
Guys, is anybody prepared to,
I am. I just have one question for the board before I make this motion.
Sure.
I put in my motion the hours of 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. If do you guys have any input on the hours that you would feel are
I'm fine with
fair, or
I think that's more than fair.
is that okay with you guys?
I think it's a little bit over the top and should be a shorter period of time, giving you the opportunity. Stores are open until 9 or 10 o'clock at night, and I'm not saying we need to do 9 or 10 o'clock.
Stores don't have blow dryers.
I recognize that, but 6 o'clock, that's.
Well, people are coming home from work at 5. I mean, they're going outside, they're cooking out, they're sitting on their patios. I'd be at 5 o'clock if you wouldn't have spoke up, to be honest with you. I'm giving you an extra hour.
I would go with 5. I would think
I
5
mean,
too.
well, what about that could do to our business? I mean, it's bad enough that lawn washers are coming into town and all these other.
But again, you can't bring up that question, you cannot say, what's it gonna do to our business, because now you're bringing up the financial part of that, and we can't, I mean, I understand, like I said, I have many businesses myself, I trust me, but you can't bring that up. Again, you keep saying that, what about, what's it gonna do to our financial impact? Our board, we can't make a decision based on finances.
I think a 6 p.m. cutoff will help expedite this process and move it along a little bit.
I'll go 6.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm prepared to make a motion in this case to allow a motion to only allow Poland touch-free car wash to use their car drying blowers from the hours of 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. 7 days a week, effective June 2nd, 2023. I'm looking for a second in my
Well,
motion.
maybe, hang on one second,
Okay.
maybe amend that and add until the new blowers are installed.
Very good, very good.
Can I say something? Like, first of all, we have to put dryer timers on it. We can't just, like, if we have to shut it off, it ain't gonna work at all for any of it. Or, I mean, it's not gonna work for, like, we can't just program like, hey, it's shut off from this time to this time. Like, I have to call my electrician, and we have to go get timers and whatnot, so basically, we're gonna be without
It's
blowers.
not an immediate fix tomorrow morning.
A week?
It's not possible.
So what's your time, again, what's your time frame?
I mean, try to give me a week to get, at least get the timers on. I mean, I don't even know what that, we've talked about that, but I don't know what is the deal to get them wired in.
So you have to put timers on those
Yeah,
too.
we have to put dryer timers, that's what, yeah.
But I can't just keep on going and
Why
giving you
can't-
time extensions and time, and I understand that, I understand where you're coming from. But a week's gonna turn into 2 weeks, gonna turn into 3 weeks. I mean, here's the deal, I'll give you like a week, and if it's not done in a week, I'm prepared to just shut the whole operation
I'm trying
down.
to get this whole thing done in a month, believe me. I'm here to tell you, I'm gonna call them first, like tonight, actually, when I get out here. I'm gonna call and get them.
Another option would be just to offer the $8 car wash from 6 to 8.
Well, unfortunately, we got a lot of customers that love the blowers, so I mean.
Well, and you like making the extra money from, the other jobs too. I understand all that. It's a business.
Ricky, do you have a revised motion?
Yeah, I'm gonna give him a week. I'm gonna give him till the 8th. So I'm gonna give you till the 8th, which is a week today, to get him, and I'm gonna come, I'll meet with you. You can show me, whatever you guys did, to get it done. So I'll amend this, effective, June 7th, 2023. And I'm sorry, Michael, what would you want me to put in there at the end?
I would just also state that until the the blowers are relocated inside the building, at which time they can resume to normal
Regular
operations.
operational hours.
Right.
The date June eighth then?
A week of June 8th. He's
Um,
give me June
Oh, yeah, a week, I'm sorry, June 8th, yes, you are correct. Would you like me to read the whole thing over again, or just the amendment?
Yeah, read the whole thing.
All right. I'd like to make a motion to only allow Poland touch-free car wash to use their car drying blowers from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m., 7 days a week, effective June 8th, 2023, until the blowers are relocated inside the building, at which point they can resume 24-hour operation.
If you could read that back, please.
I'd like to make a motion to only allow Poland touch-free car wash to use their car drying blowers from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. 7 days a week, effective June 8, 2023, until the blowers are relocated inside the building, at which point they can resume 24-hour operation.
Thank you.
You have a second on
I'm
that?
gonna second it.
Mr. Grahovic, second. We'll go ahead and pull the board. Ricky Morrison,
Yes.
David Long,
Yes.
Robert Durk.
Yes.
John Grahovic.
Yes.
And I am a yes also. Guys, thanks for your information. Residents, thanks everyone for coming in. We appreciate it.
Thank
we're
you,
gonna,
guys.
Appreciate your time and dialogue as well.
Thank you.
Certainly.
Please, Dustin, please notify the office when you've made the change.
I will, absolutely.
Thank you. Sure, absolutely. We're gonna have an intermission tonight, everybody, so we're gonna take 5.
Tom said, I'm just gonna stretch my legs.
Untraditionally long meeting tonight.
Oh.
2 hours. That was an hour. The other one was 15 minutes. So.
The only thing I struggle with, people don't realize, like, I'm writing every word, so people are, multiple people are talking, it's like I can't, I do the best I can.
Young lady, come here a moment.
Yes, yes.
Good, I met you a long time ago.
Excuse me, your phone?
And what is your name?
My name's Chastity.
Chastity. Last name?
Okay,
Fiesel.
gotcha.
Fiesel.
Yes.
Okay.
Nice to meet you.
So you're on board with this then as
I
our
am,
record?
me or Dina.
Because I saw your,
Yeah, I know, that's why I need a little
Everything
break.
that you
My hands
submitted.
get a little.
Thanks, guys. Take care.
Michelle, she was all,
Oh, yeah, that's longhand. Mine's much more efficient.
very
I'm
good.
getting every word.
Chastity.
Chastity, like Fran Cher stuff.
Oh, yeah, okay. I just saw that a
My
couple
parents
nights
were
ago
hippies.
from the old David Letterman show. Thank you for your time. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thank you very
Good to
much.
meet you. Thanks for coming in. Take care.
Because they met after like 12 years, the David Letterman show, and she was kind of a little ticked off about it. And they say, I got you, babe. And he was saying he had a new singer, which was the daughter.
Well, the ones they have are better.
Sunny and Cher.
I think everybody was back in those days, yeah. And they had an excellent variety.
Yes, my mom loved that.
Yeah.
Needless to say, that's where my name came
Well, very good. Very good. Well, we're glad that you're on board today.
Yeah, yeah. I live in East Palestine, so it's not far from you.
Oh, would you, where at? Is it north of where the derailment was, or you closer in-house?
I am, oh gosh, I'm trying to think. I'm technically north of it, so everything's flowing the opposite direction of
Okay,
my
right.
house. So,
One of our teachers where I'm principal at, his name's Tim Kincaid, Timothy Kincaid.
he's my neighbor.
Oh, get the hell out of
Three
here.
houses up. Swear to God. Yes.
Yeah, he's our
That's hilarious.
social studies teacher.
Erica, his wife.
Yeah, yeah, Erica, and their daughter just graduated valedictorian.
They literally live up the hill from me, but like 3 houses away.
Okay, because we always talked about the derailment and all that kind of stuff and everything. And I know he's super into hockey and all that.
Yes, well, he used to be the soccer coach at Crestview before he quit.
Right,
His kids
right.
were getting a little older, so he was like, I
Well,
want to be home with my
should you
kids.
happen to run into him,
I will. Tell him I met you. Yeah, that's hilarious. Small world.
Yes, it is.
But East Pasadena's a small place, just like Poland. It's small. Everybody knows everybody pretty much, and you can't like go anywhere without knowing somebody. So.
It's too bad they're not on the front page anymore, but are they forgetting about you? They really
It's okay. The railroad, I mean, they're there. They just opened a new family assistance center. They're gonna be there for the next 2 years at least. The EPA has a place in town. So,
He's a good shot about 7:30 or 8, so I have to give it, I'll give it to him.
I think they did. I haven't heard anything about that. There's like 5 different places they tried to take it and everybody refused
You know,
it.
we had a couple, when I was at the park, we had a couple.
How do you think we feel?
We had meetings that started 6.
Yeah, no, it's really, I'm
I've
okay
had
where
board
we are,
meetings like
thank
that myself
goodness,
when I was
I'm very lucky where
superintendent.
I am. I'm not.
I had one board meeting that started at 7 o'clock and finished 2 in the morning.
You want to have some of these up here so they're closer?
That's what we were doing.
No,
brand
I'm
new
okay. I
schools
mean,
for
it's up
women.
to these guys.
So you know that all the different
You
trades.
guys want your own drawing of the site plans, or do you want to see this one from here? What do you want?
I mean, she told me to bring 8 copies of everything.
Patty's was terrific. Oh, yeah.
Patty's very thorough.
She is the best, because I've worked with a lot of boards and things like this before, so,
I don't know. I mean,
well, it's up to you.
if you're gonna point out what you got there, I guess we could grab one. Give Rick one, Dave one.
Yeah, we have 3 of us.
All right, yeah, here.
You know what? Just send them all us.
We'll do it like this. We'll share it.
Share Dave here. Ricky and John.
You guys ready to get started?
Take one of these each, okay? That's the.
Here's one for everybody.
All right.
One for everybody.
This is the carriage house building. It's one of these, okay, 'cause that's what we're gonna be talking about. In relation to site plan. So do you need more?
No, I think this is one each for this.
Oh, here, this is.
There's several pages together.
Oh,
Yeah,
I think
there's
we're
the whole
good.
building is there, all right?
So we'll share your big one.
Okay.
That sounds good.
And then take one of these, okay, this is, because this is existing outbuildings that are adjacent to the property, so you can see the size and everything else. Yeah, you can pass them down. No, it's all the same. Give each one. These are a little darker, but it doesn't matter, it's the outbuilding. I want you to be aware, all right? All right. So you have everything we okay?
All right, guys, we're gonna go ahead and get started. Continuing from where we left off, we are now going to discuss case ZA 0323. This is a continuance. And we were presented with some additional drawings tonight and a very nice letter from architect Mr. Mastriani. I'm not gonna read this into record, it's quite lengthy, but we'll just go ahead and start right here. Bob, I think you're here representing the case. If you could just state your name and address for the record and we'll move forward.
Bob Mastriano, Foreign from the Architects, 34 Boxford Street in the village. And then I'm going to introduce Joe Testa, because he's going to talk about drainage issues that were concerned before. He's the contractor, Testa Restoration, and then, of course, everyone knows Tom Zidian, the owner of the house, and Aqua Plaza and Summer Garden and all that. So he bought this property from Dr. Tom Boniface a couple of years ago. And at that time, you had already allowed Dr. Boniface a variance for the outbuilding. The strange thing, and as an architect, I think you need to change that one zoning issue that an outbuilding can only be 600 square feet. That's not even the size of a garage almost. And these homes that we're building, and especially in Candy Woods, they're all 3.5 acre lots. And the needs of a much larger outbuilding would help. We wouldn't need to go through variance. But anyway, you've given variances all along the street already. And that's why I gave you that picture. That one is directly across the street from Tom's. And you can see how visible that outbuilding is. And plus, that outbuilding is 3 times the size of your allowed variance. So, not allowed variance, of your zoning code of 600 square feet. So you've already granted 2 or 3, 3 actually, variances to the previous owners of the homes and also the current owners on that street. So So the 600 square foot that is in your code really has already been really not even utilized because everyone else has gotten variances in all the other adjacent homeowners that have outbuildings. So what we're asking for, and of course you only allow one outbuilding per lot. And in this case, we have two. We have the existing carriage house that we need to add on to, and then we have the equipment building. Now the equipment building, I think did she show you a picture? It's the one that's right next to the pool. That's this one right here. It's a small little building. It's only 16 by 20, but that is completely filled. If she sent you a picture of it, it's completely filled with pool equipment. It's not even habitable for people in that. That's this little building here. So, so that one is, and it's adjacent to the pool because we had to run in all the underground utilities and everything to it, and so it had to be right here where the spa and the pool is. So that building is really strictly for equipment. This was the existing carriage house, all right, that you have those pictures of. And then what we're doing is we're building this additional carriage house. Now, it's the same dimension front and back, which is 30 feet. And so the half of the building, we're building it behind it. Now what's interesting, when you see the neighbors and all the other outbuildings, they're all visible. This existing one now, because of the tree line and the way the angle of the street, you cannot even see the existing carriage house anywhere from the street or from the neighbors.
Even in the wintertime?
In the wintertime, you can, the neighbor here, he can see this carriage house here, but he's about 100 feet, or at least 50 to 100 feet away from the existing one. But in the rest of the year, when the foliage is up, you're totally not even, you can't even see it from here. And you can't, even in the winter, you can't even see it because of the way the landscaping and the tree line is and the angle of the street.
From the road.
Yeah.
From the road.
From the road. So what we did was we wanted to, we couldn't, in the letter you saw, the basement, it wasn't ever really designed to be a rec room because the way they located all the mechanical equipment right in the center of it. They have all these, since it's a large structure, they have all these interior poles, and there's just no way you could really make a usable rec room. So we wanted to have, so we were forced to do it here. This building is filled with equipment and things like that that they have for their daughter and Horace. She's active in equestrian, and her art studio's in here. And so we needed a building to house a larger vehicle that Tom uses for events and stuff like this. And we also have the rest of the building filled for pool, the winter storage of the pool equipment, and then also game room and then recreational type activities that most people would have in their basement. So that's, but the important thing is that this building, and when you see that on the drawings and that, all you see is this tiny little protrusion that sticks beyond it, which is 30 feet by 30 feet. The rest is completely hidden by this building. So,
So that's looking,
So this is the existing.
like on this big drawing here.
yeah.
Yes,
It's like this.
Okay,
exactly, yes. That's this guy.
So it was really hidden by the garage in the first place, and then all you see is this. So,
Just this.
yeah.
Gotcha, yeah.
Okay, so
Yeah.
that's all you
That's
see.
30 feet, is that what
Okay,
it
and
is?
this is the beautiful look of it. It's a carriage house, the door, because this is where the larger van-type vehicle will be stored inside then instead of outside. Then all the rest of this side of the building will be the storage for the winter race, for the pool furniture and things like this. And then this side is gonna have behind this building is where the recreational room is. Okay?
You're printing,
This.
you're printing as gorgeous, typical architect. I love putting it.
Yeah, and that's every side is beautiful. It's not,
But the way you,
yeah,
you're
well,
drawing, yeah.
and that's the back. So as we face the wood, we have it all glass. So the building is very transparent. And so this shows clearly, the floor plan, everyone, it clearly shows what's in yellow is the new, and this is the existing, so you can see where it is. Okay, so this is all you see is this tiny little bit. We had to locate it there because that's where the drive ends, and that's the only way the large vehicle can be pulled straight in. Okay, because we couldn't turn in the corner or anything else, so it has to be that way.
This drive.
history is still existing right now, so this all exists right now to get into that. So
Yeah,
that's why
the
we-
existing
Yeah,
building.
that's existing, yeah, so that drives all there existing, yeah.
Okay. So, so then, so that's the carriage house, and it's on the letter, I think it's 1,100 and, the existing was 1,056 square feet, and I think I had 1,170 on this, for the new carriage house.
What was the old one, sir? Sorry?
It's in the letter.
Because I know we were reducing the square footage of the building.
The existing carriage house is 1,056 square feet, and the new one is 1,750 square feet.
But what was it originally before our first meeting? Wasn't it 1,860? Am I correct?
No.
Didn't we reduce the square
I think
footage?
we came up with, yeah, but I think I think it was just a,
Oh, for that?
yeah, for that.
I wasn't here.
Oh, okay, that's right,
I
yeah.
apologize.
No, it's fine.
I apologize if I wasn't here, but anyway. But the actual one, these are right from I did my own takeoffs, and these are accurate. 1,056 is the existing one, and then 1,750 is the addition.
So we're gonna be at,
Going to be at
2,700 and, 2,806 square feet.
Right. But appearance-wise, you're only going to see a tiny little addition. Plus, you're not even going to see it. The only way you're going to be aware of it is if you're back in the rear of the yard. Okay. So, the equipment. I mean, do you have the one printed? I mean, the amount of equipment in that other room and the other building, which is this cute little outbuilding. You can hardly walk in here, the way it has to be, and I was pretty definitive of why it has to be. The equipment is noisy, and it's loud, and it's expensive, and it needs to be undercover, and yet the chemicals and things like this cannot be in a habitable space, so it has to be in a separate building. And even the electrician, on this drawing I showed the electrical here, but he told us no, he doesn't want to do that because he's seen after 7 years any electrical equipment in a pool equipment building corrodes. And so he's already put it outside, and that's how bad it is. So this building really is a requirement. You got to almost look at it as part of the pool. It's not really an outbuilding, as a habitable type outbuilding. And we nestled it in the woods there, right up against it, so it really doesn't have any exposure either. And since we did this also, and of course, Dr. Boniface sent a letter on the last meeting, I was told, complaining or questioning the drainage, and that Joe can address the drainage. But since then, Tom has purchased that extra land there. Dr. Boniface's extra lots, since he bought the house, and to protect his investment there, he bought the other lot since we talked last. So now he has over 7 acres, okay? And even if he didn't have that, the calculations that I did on this, as far as land coverage, the lot size before 3.3 acres was 144,000 square feet. A typical residential lot is 20,000 square feet, okay? 100 by 200. And if you took the total building area now, even with all these additions, okay, everything we're doing that you see on the site plan here with the outbuildings and the porches and everything else, his total building is 8,825 square feet. So if you divide that into the amount of square footage, he's only at 16% land coverage. And that's without buying that extra lot. And we talked to Patty, and because we're talking, should we replat it into two lots, or it's 2 lots now. So it be replatted into one. She didn't recommend doing that. There was no reason to, because in case, he could always do it at any point in time. And so if you figure that, I mean, he's probably less than 1% land coverage with the amount of acreage he has. So I mean, and it's all treed, all wooded. He's surrounded by woods. There's really no reason. I mean, he could build way more and not even overbuild the neighborhood or the lot. Yeah. Really? So that's what we're asking for. So it's a variance to add on this addition to the existing carriage house, so we can have a rec room and storage for the large vehicle and also pool equipment.
pool furnishings for the winter, and then the equipment building for the pool area. So there's two variances required, as it was detailed in the letter, okay?
Can we just back up for 1 second? So the existing house that's right, or the existing building, this building,
No, that's new.
Or
This is the
this.
existing, yeah.
is, you said 1,056 square feet?
Yes.
But in the original zoning appeals, it says that that building is only 864 square feet. It's right here. That's what was on his zoning request too. It says, addition onto the existing 864 square foot accessory building. This was the
Okay.
original denial
You know
form.
what? I'm wrong. It's because I took the overall footprint of it, but if you take the recessed porch area of that garage, it's not square footage, it's overhang.
So
See how this sketch is here? And you have the pictures of it. I included that because I took the footprint of the roof, which is a 30 by
Okay.
46.
So,
building. But if you subtract the
The
6 foot
overhead,
recess
yeah.
for that whole
Okay.
front of it, that's why he's down at 864.
Okay, so
My mistake.
we're gonna go with the original denial
Yes.
form. We're gonna go with the 864.
Yes.
Okay, that leads me to my next question, and you may not be able to answer this because you weren't here at the original meeting. So you're asking for the new addition to be 1750,
Correct.
but the original plans were to be 1860, and then we didn't deny that. We just tabled it because we thought it was a little too big. So you reduced it by
Yeah, the difference, whatever. But it's 1750, that's
60
exactly what it is,
60 square feet
probably.
is what you're reducing it by?
Mhm.
And that was our original table, because we just thought that the building was a little too big.
Yeah.
So you're reducing it by 60 square feet.
Yes, but you shouldn't only just look at the square footage, look at how creatively it was tucked in behind the existing building, and you're only seeing a tiny little 30 by 30 projection, and that's all you really see. You can't even tell that because we tucked it in behind the other building, there's no, it's tucked in behind here.
Right, I
So
understand.
when you're looking at it, you don't even know that that's.
Right, I understand.
Okay.
I'm not being argumentative. I just want to get the facts right. And because the resident who showed up last time is why we tabled it, is because he thought it was too big, and we agreed we thought it was too big. But I want you to continue with your presentation. I just want to make sure I have my math square footage
No, you're-
correct.
you're right.
So you're
I'm glad you
reducing it
picked
by
that up.
60
Yeah.
60
Yeah,
square
because
feet.
a lot of boards look at porches and overhangs different, as far as square footages or not, including it.
Well, what was confusing me as well was the square footage of the existing building compared to what we had in the denial form compared to what you stated it was, but we corrected that, so
So.
please continue.
All right, so the land coverage, of course, is minimal, even less now with the doubling of the lot. And then the way it was designed, of course, with really hiding it behind an existing building that really is not even seen from the original building from the road. There's no objection there as far as it has less impact than the outbuildings on the others directly across the street and diagonally down from him. Those outbuildings really are impactful, where this one doesn't even doesn't have any impact at all or detrimental property value to anyone there. And the neighbor, I mean, when you opened and saw those elevations with all the glass, I mean, we have really the prettiest elevation is facing your house now. I don't know if you saw it with all the glass and everything else.
What kind of glass you using?
They're all Pella windows.
Pella windows.
Yeah, for heat loss and that.
So if I'm
The
not
true
mistaken,
divided
this would face
No,
his
that
house.
faces the backwoods.
Oh, that's
Yeah,
the backwoods. That's the one
small
before there?
little- The small little 30-foot.
This one.
No, that faces the full, this one, the one with all the glass, this one.
Oh, this one. Okay.
Yeah, this is.
Could you please give that to him? I'm sorry? Yeah, I just wanted you to have that for visual purposes, that's all.
So, I mean, the carriage house is prettier than most people's homes, you know, so,
So there's been nothing done to evaluate and concern the neighbors. Now, Joe can talk about, because drainage was an important factor.
Yes.
And
So
Absolutely.
drainage-wise, we have two pipes running from the back around the front. So there's two pipes running to the west side. So from where the existing garage is now, we have two lines running, a 6-inch line running. Not to mention, out of the new patio that we put in back in here, there's a 8-inch line that runs across this way, which picks up all these new downspouts and gutters. We're all new, bigger gutters.
And that's the one you tapped into the new catch basin. We were talking about that the first meeting.
So this all goes back through and ties back into two 6-inch lines that run all.
It throws it out to the street?
Yeah, it comes all the way to the street, yes. So
we have
there's
trench
two.
drains, we have more drains than you can imagine, because they don't want any water going into the pool that's not, filtered and things like this.
Now that with the pool, with this section here, this whole groundwater, all the groundwater here, there's a drain here, a drain here, a drain here, a drain there. So all this water now is being picked up, that was on, that went nowhere, just groundwater. So now that all this water is being picked up and pushed to the street too.
And all that was done by a landscape architect from Cleveland. He did all the drainage designs and everything, and how it all had to taper down and away from the pool and everything. So, I mean, everything was engineered to the T, and so.
Last, I think I don't know if I asked you or somebody else had, are the drains normally 4?
Yeah, so we have 6-inch, two 6-inch.
And you went to 8?
Yeah.
Because I thought they were normally 4.
8 across the back.
Right.
When we picked up the new downspouts.
4 is minimum code.
Yeah,
right?
4 is code, yeah. So now we have two 6-inch running down through.
Just to backtrack real quick, did you get the permit for the other building?
Yes.
Okay, and then I know we talked about it, so just please refresh my memory. I'm not questioning your expertise
Right.
at
No,
all.
no,
I just,
you're fine. Yeah.
for myself, what were we doing with the downspouts off of that building? Were those going into a drain
So
out back?
those are now, that building, I don't know if we're gonna put downspouts on that, but right now we have them catched. So it's gonna run into a gravel.
French
on the-
drain.
Okay, yeah,
drain.
French drain.
Yeah.
That's okay.
So
We
there's
talked
no
about that. I
French
just
drain.
wanted to refresh my memory what we
Yeah.
were doing with.
So
with
there's not much roof coverage there, so we're gonna do that and catch on a French drain, no gutters.
Okay.
It's just a design.
And obviously the homeowner's fine with that because I know he
Yes.
doesn't want water in his basement.
No, right,
you know,
exactly.
so.
Well, but now, even if it wasn't, it's onto his own land now.
Right. Yeah. Mr. Boniface sold you the extra lot next door. I understand. Perfect. Okay.
So-
Again, I wasn't
No, no,
questioning.
no,
I just wanted to
that's
refresh
fine.
my memory
We-
on.
We're taking care of all that, so our big thing is even, like I said, putting that 8-inch line in and then the two running all the way through, we have two 6-inch lines running all the way to the street, so we're getting all the water from, especially off this new building, will all be ran around to the west side like everything else.
Okay. And the water from the new building will go into a catch basin. We
Yes.
talked about this before. It'll fill up and eventually
Yes,
end
we
up
need
to
slow
the
it down,
street.
yes. And then the other option is, like I had my guy out there, is if we need to run a bigger line. Sometimes we'll start off with a bigger line there to hold it instead of a catch basin, might be a 15-inch line, that all this water will drain into, kind of reservoir it, and then it fills up to the 6-inch, and then it drains out.
Okay.
So you have everything going out.
I know we talked
So
about
we
all this,
are
but just kind of like a
with huge
refresher.
amount of water at the street at one time, so that's our biggest thing.
Okay.
And then one other thing we did, so that, since he has such a beautiful lot, we're running the fence around the pool. We worked it out with your zoning people. It's a 6-foot-high fence, but it's going through the woods all around it, and it's black, and it's gonna be all disguised through the woods and that, so we don't have to have a fence around the pool so that they can have access to the yard and all the recreational.
So like an wrought iron
Yeah.
type fence, designer fence.
Yes.
Yeah, and we already paid for the fence permits, because we had to have that before the pool was even, they got their permit, so. We're just holding off to put that in because it's gonna.
It actually goes in next week.
Yeah.
The pool or the fence?
Pulls in.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Yeah, I thought we were already that far
We
along.
can't put the fence in until we do the addition on the carriage house. Okay?
Guys, any other questions or comments here from the board? Thank you, gentlemen. Is there anyone else here to speak in favor of this tonight? Hearing none, is there anyone in opposition that would like to speak?
You have a third category? Because I'm not in opposition.
No, please speak up though. I want to hear your opinion. I want to hear, because honestly, you have to live next door, and I know you guys are good friends, you're neighbors and everything, but you still live there. It's still your place of residence, and you have to be happy where you reside. So I want to hear anything you have to say, good or bad, please.
My name is Joe Lucci. I am the neighbor on the east side of the property. just for a slight correction, I didn't say the structure is too big. I was concerned the size of the structure would create a greater water problem potentially, just because of the footprint of the structure. I didn't complain about previously it being too big.
Okay, I stand corrected. I know the board was concerned about it being too big, and I thought that was one of yours. I knew the water was one of your concerns.
As the board may be aware, 2 to 3 weeks prior, we had a flood. I had a flood.
I remember
And
that.
Actually, I think Mr. Zeidman had a flood also.
You had $10,000 in damage in your basement, if I remember
That's what
correctly.
well, slightly in excess of that. And I was concerned about the footprint of the new building going behind the carriage house, how that would affect the water flowing to my property. Mr. Testa at the prior meeting indicated that he would give me a tour of the property, which he did. It was very extensive, very detailed, very time-consuming, probably the better part of an hour, 45 minutes to an hour. He satisfied my concerns.
Okay.
So, am I here to speak in favor of it? I don't oppose it at all. I thought the board would possibly want to hear from me.
Absolutely.
That's why I
No,
came
we're glad
tonight.
you came out.
Why we're here.
Pardon?
We're glad you came out.
Yeah. But I wanted to, pardon? But I didn't think it was appropriate, me raising a concern previously, that I was concerned about floodwater coming to my property because I had a completely unrelated flooding situation based upon electricity going out. And I was frankly not certain as to how this would have affected or didn't affect the water flow toward my property. And the piping or the drainage as a result of the piping seems to be probably more than is necessary, which is fine with me. I'm on the east side of the property, and correct me, Joe, if I'm wrong, the drainage is all flowing to the west, away from me, toward the currently vacant lot, the wooded lot.
I just have one question for you as well. So we won't really know if this drainage or water issues until the structure is built.
You know, my excavator who's doing the work was out and walked the property with me, and he said that he's confident in where it's at now, but, you know, and again, they have all different ways. We see the amount of water, he looks at the amount of roof, he knows the size of the structure, so he's like, these 2 6-inch lines that are running are more than
That's ample
sufficient,
for-
what we have going on. I mean, we don't, right now, even with what we're doing, even with the 8-inch line, slowing that water down that we did, it makes a world of
And
difference.
there's no flooding now,
Right.
okay?
Yeah.
So the property
And,
doesn't get flooded
It's
now.
gonna tie into the existing, so there's not gonna be any change at all.
But if there was, just say that there was, what would be the solution? Just dig it up and
So,
put bigger lines in?
Either a bigger line or a bigger catch basin.
Okay.
So our biggest thing is to catch that water, hold it for a little bit, let it rise up, and then exit out of the pipe.
But you're confident you won't need to, but
No.
if you do, you do have a solution
solution, yeah.
to the problem. Okay.
Yes.
Very well, thank you.
To be clear, my flooding was as a result of an electrical shortage.
Yeah, your electricity
It
went out.
wasn't as a result of, as I've later found out, it wasn't as a result of anything that was going on next door to me. There's an electrical shortage, there was no power in the area, and my sumps, plural, backed up and I got flooding in my basement.
You don't have battery backup?
No battery.
I didn't have battery backup.
Now you do.
Now you do.
Tom has it now too. And,
Oh, that's okay,
And
yeah.
my basement flooded, not this time, but before, and the battery backup saved me during this last episode. So that, you should almost have that in your code or something that, battery backup.
That should be county code, actually.
Well, it should be, but it isn't.
Yeah.
Not anyway. All right.
But go ahead,
Just
proceed.
make sure you check those batteries periodically. Sometimes they will even fail
Yeah.
on you too.
Yeah, well, they have a light that lets you know. it's
Right,
on.
right. I have a
Just
good
to look at it.
doctor friend of mine that experienced that, and after I explained to him what he needed to do, then he followed through very thoroughly after that. Because he had 3 sumps in his basement to get his water away.
Well, I have one less, I have 2, one in each corner of the basement, and I've lived there, if not 30, very close to 30 years. I've never had that situation before, previously, where the electricity went out and
For several days.
for several days,
Yeah.
correct. Correct.
Sir, thank you for your
Thank you.
comments.
All right.
Any other, anything else here? Yes, sir. If you could just state your name and address.
So
for
Tom
us.
Ziden and 3415 Candywood, Joe's neighbor. I appreciate your comments, Joe, and the fact that, you know, my team is pretty much satisfied with your concerns. I had the same thing, my electricity was out for a couple days, no battery backups on my sump pumps, so, my cost was the same, over $10,000 to fix up the basement and everything, because it's filled up with water. So, we were probably sending each other water, because, but anyways, so I appreciate, the board here, and, is there any questions you have for me that my team hasn't answered? These guys are the construction guys, they know, but, I certainly want to make sure that the water flows off great and that the structural design is nice so that, you know, it's pleasing to the neighborhood and just improve on what we have.
I went out to your area, and I drove to look at your property from his perspective after our last meeting, and you know, your home's beautiful, your home's beautiful. You guys are blessed. It's a nice neighborhood.
Yes, we are, thank you.
It is a nice, little bit of land.
Yeah,
Very nice neighborhood.
pretty pretty.
Any questions for this gentleman?
I don't have any, I think it was thorough on this one too.
Yep. Thank you very much, sir, appreciate it. Comments here from the board? My questions have been allayed, if you will. I'm fine with this request.
Yeah, I don't have, I mean, we asked them to reduce it, they did reduce it by 110 square foot, though it's not a lot, they still, you know, lived up to our request. The neighbor's happy, he went as far as to even buy the existing lot to assure, you know, there's no flooding issues, make Mr. Boniface, the previous owner, happy. I don't see a problem with it myself.
Same.
Ditto.
Same.
Same.
Somebody like to make a motion? Ricky?
Our motion maker?
Yeah.
Who's our motion detector?
Before I do that, I just want to get this right. The first one was 1,800 square feet. Now we're going down to 1,750, correct? Because I have 1,860 written down for some reason, because I know you and I had gone through some numbers. But I want to make sure that I put it right in the motion, because I don't want you guys to have to come back. I don't want anything to be messed up. So we're going to go for 1,750 square feet.
That's the addition.
The addition, for a total of 1,860 with the existing structure.
No.
No, your existing structure
Is-
was 864. Now what you had on that, from that permit.
I have so many numbers written down over here. So we're at 864.
What was the first one?
I wasn't at, I saw your numbers.
Yeah, but see, the numbers that are in the denial form are different because you guys reduced the structure. So I just want to get this right. So we're at 1864 existing structure plus 1750, what
Yes.
we're going to add to bring us to a total of 2614.
Okay, but I said the existing structure that I had in my letter, because I
2614,
didn't
right?
subtract the.
Yeah, you said it was 8 or 1056.
That's why I'm saying what
He's
was
right.
on your original one was
2416.
correct, mine was over
Yes.
because of the roof.
That's what he's saying. You're right.
So what was on here was 864,
And they added
right?
Correct.
1752.
Yeah, so put 864 plus 1750.
Right, which is a total of 2614.
Well, then that's-
26,
Okay,
that's
I just wanted to make sure I got my
That's
numbers
correct.
right. 'Cause-
Yeah, that's
Okay.
correct.
all right.
Okay.
Yeah, you guys got to give me a few minutes here.
No, it's okay.
All right.
We'll sing the Jeopardy theme song. Da, da, da.
Hey, we've come this far. We've come this far.
That's right.
You take it out. You write it in order.
I would take it for the record.
We'll take that in the other one.
Okay.
I'm gonna take this one just to have it.
So you can look at it.
Question for you real quick. We were putting in there to allow the existing structure this 24 by 36, that was the pool house, correct? That there wasn't a permit for?
24, that was 16 by 20. That is a permit for that.
But yeah, I know, I want to make sure I don't need to put that in my motion since you guys already pulled the permit. Michael, am I correct? They pulled a permit for that existing building, so we don't, and it was approved, correct?
Yeah,
So
according
we
to
don't need to
Patty's
put.
email, yeah, that's pretty much a moot point.
All right, so we don't need to add this anymore, okay.
Well, what Patty said, because that's the second outbuilding,
Technically true, yeah, we do, should we offer or approve a variance for the additional outbuilding for the pool equipment?
Okay, so leave that, because I did put
Yeah.
that in here, so I should leave it in here?
Yeah,
Okay, well, just for the record, I'll put it in there then, okay.
yeah, the permit issue's solved, but we do need to issue
To
variance
still add it,
to
okay.
allow it, yes.
All right, I made this simple, so, and if you, before anyone seconds it, if you'd like to add anything, please do. Because usually I make these up as we go, but my mind's not all, just too much tonight. Usually these meetings are 45 minutes long. I've been on this board 12 years, this is the longest meeting we've ever had. So,
my first time.
so yeah, and I apologize about that. So, but I'm gonna make this simple. And yeah.
I wanted to pay for those guys who moved their floor.
Yeah. Like, can we just get out of here, right?
So did we.
The neighbors were upset, but I had the same problem on with Clear Road. The neighbors behind me have a manufacturing plant, so we put up a fence, we put up trees, take care of it so that they're happy. So you just have to do what you gotta do. That's
Yeah.
all.
When you abut residential with commercial,
It's hard. Yeah.
Clash of interests.
Okay, so I'm prepared to make a motion in case ZA, excuse me, 0323 to allow a 1,750 square foot structure to be added to the existing 864 square foot structure. As well to allow the existing accessory building to remain. Actually, hold on. Let me back up before I put that. So we're gonna go to the existing 864 foot structure as per the plan submitted, and allow the existing accessory building to remain. Did I cover
I
it?
would call it the pool equipment building. That's-
For the existing structure?
Yeah,
Okay.
instead of.
I'm sorry? Instead of,
Accessory building, pool equipment.
okay, can you change that to pool equipment
Can you,
structure?
can you just read the whole thing?
Sure, yeah. Tell me whenever you're ready.
Go ahead, I'm good.
Okay, I'd like to make a motion in case ZA 0323 to allow a 1,750 square foot structure to be added to the existing 864 square foot structure as per the plan submitted, as well allow the pool equipment building to remain. And I want to make sure we have everything covered so you guys don't have to come back if you don't have any problems. So are you guys, did I get everything in there?
Yeah.
Okay. Is there anybody on the board that likes to add or take away from that?
If you could read that back when you're ready.
Sure. I'd like to make a motion in case ZA 0323 to allow a 1,750 square foot structure to be added to the existing 864 square foot structure as per the plan submitted, as well allow the pool equipment building to remain.
That's
That
perfect.
sound right?
Sounds
I'll
right.
second that.
There you go. We have a second.
We have a
Congratulations.
I'm gonna go ahead and poll the board. Ricky Morrison,
Yes.
David Long,
Yes.
Robert Dirk,
Yes.
John Grahovic.
Yes.
And I am yes as well. Thanks everyone for your patience.
Thank you guys so
I
much.
just want to mention one thing. I
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We work well together, and your Patty magazine is really.
Does a
an
great job.
Oh yeah, she holds us all together.
That's a
Oh, but
nice.
she
She's
got
a-
a raise. It was a raise.
All right. Motion to adjourn.
Motions.
He owns a lumber company, I was gonna tell him, get some of the wood that you sell.
Does he really? I know they own car washes all over them.
Bob,
Yeah.
what's wrong for you?
Really? I didn't know that. They're not even from here.
So you want